Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to George W. Norris Legislative Chamber. The afternoon session is about to reconvene. Senators, please record your presence. Roll call. Please record.
There is a quorum present, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Are there any items for the record?
Mr. President, new resolution LR 257 by Senator Stinner that will be laid over. In addition, the Judiciary Committee will hold an executive session at 1:45 in room 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Colleagues, it is my honor to introduce some special guests we have under the South balcony. They are out-of-state disaster relief folks who came to help us with our floods. Jeannie Jeannet, Lakivia Warren, and Tara Walker, all from Louisiana. Elizabeth Melton from South Carolina. Erica Hughes was here and she's had to depart from South Carolina. And with them is Brian Tuma, who is the NEMA management, who I might add has, I believe, done an excellent job during this disastrous time period. So would you please stand and be recognized by the Nebraska Legislature? Thank you so much for everything you've done for us. We really appreciate it. Senator Brewer, for what purpose do you stand?
Point of personal privilege, Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this evening at 1800, most of you will probably be involved with the Sine Die event, but I wanted to let folks know that simultaneously in Omaha at Embassy Suites at La Vista, we will be recognizing roughly 100 Purple Heart recipients and families of the Gold Star families. These will be veterans from the wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, and the Persian Gulf who have either earned the Purple Heart or the Bronze Star, and they're going to be joined by Nebraska's service members' families that have been lost in those wars. We will fly early tomorrow morning to Washington, D.C. out of Epley, roughly 03 a.m., and that will start all day-long events for this group. The public is invited to line up along South 10th Street to welcome them home when the parade starts tomorrow night. The parade will begin at 10th and Jackson Streets at roughly 9 p.m., and it will include the Millard American Legion Post 374's Color Guard, the Omaha Police Department, bagpipe and drums. We will have Korean vintage Jeeps, classic cars, motorcycles, a camel, horses, a mule, and politicians. So I would invite you, if you can, if you are in Omaha or if you happen to be in the Omaha area, to come tomorrow night and welcome especially the Gold Star families. And with that, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Brewer, for that information, and I encourage anyone that is able to attend that. Mr. Clerk, first item.
Mr. President, under consideration when we recessed for lunch was LB 209 and specifically an amendment from Senator Blood, AM 1875.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Senator Albright, would you like to refresh us, not that we probably need it, but on LB 209?
Certainly. Thank you, Speaker Scheer. Again, we're discussing LB 209, which is about informed consent for a woman if she should so choose to stop after the first abortion pill and decide to seek help to bring her baby to term. Thank you.
Thank you. And Senator Blood, would you like to refresh us on your amendment, please?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All my amendment does is add the language that says that a woman breastfeeding in public will be exempted from public indecency laws. Nothing more, nothing less. And although our state does allow for them to breastfeed wherever they like, it does not protect them from public indecency laws while they're breastfeeding.
Thank you, Senator Blood. We'll return to discussion. Those waiting in the queue, Senator Chambers, Blood, DeBoer, and Pansing Brooks, and others. Senator Chambers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the legislature, it should not come as a surprise, but I'm opposed to this bill. I'd like to inform Senator Albright of something about this atrocious piece of legislation that currently is in the books that she indicated she was not willing to change because it's been there a long time. Longevity does not improve something which is rotten in the beginning. No matter how long you let a sow's ear sit on the shelf, it will never transmogrify into a silk purse. If something is unclean and you put it in a sealed container, it will never be clean. You can't bring a clean thing out of an unclean thing by simply letting the unclean thing stand. When I read through these various bills, whether it deals with abortion, criminal statutes, or anything else, when I see something that should be changed, I make the effort to do it. I take seriously what we do when we enact laws. This particular area of the law makes the legislature appear to have been peopled by ignoramuses. So what Senator Albright seems to be saying, if it was good enough for them fools back there, it's good enough for these fools here today, and nobody is expected to gain any additional knowledge or understanding. We should let obsolete statutes stay on the books. We should let statutes which are written in bunglesome English stay bunglesome so it can serve as something like a history book and show how ignorant the senators were whenever that was put on the books. Senator Albright, by offering what she's doing, is violating her own principle because she's altering the law that's on the books now. This is what I'm talking about when I express chagrin, impatience sometimes with comments that senators make thoughtlessly. What we say is recorded, it is transcribed, and it would be a good idea for some of you to get the transcriptions of what you said and read it and see if what you said is what you would really like to live with. You cannot undo what has been transcribed, but you can take that as a learning experience and do better the next time. Do I expect that to happen? After my 40-some-odd years here, I know it's not going to happen. You all, when you bring these bills, get your marching orders. I know you don't write these bills yourselves. You're more intelligent than that. But when you let a fool give you something and you ratify what the fool did and adopt it as your own, then you have joined the crew on the ship of fools. I will continue. When I see poorly written laws come before us in the guise of a bill that is designed to amend the law, I'm going to offer those changes. The fact that the offerings will be rejected will not deter me because I know what I'm dealing with. I'm not dealing with professors. I'm not dealing with college graduates, and I don't mean somebody who went through college and college went through them. To me, to graduate is more than just finishing a certain number of years. It means that you gain some knowledge and understanding during those years. But as George Bernard Shaw said, colleges and universities are places of higher learning because everybody brings something when they come, but they leave with nothing. So what they left begins to accumulate, and when you put it all together, you have an institution of higher learning. Just because we're in the legislature and we are not required as a qualification to even know how to read, write, or spell, does not mean we should maintain the level of ignorance that we were at when we first came here. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. Senator Blyde, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Fellow senators, friends all, as always, I listened very closely to the entire debate on both my amendment and the underlying bill. I have grave concerns. First of all, I have concerns that the amendment's basically in stealth mode, which tells me that a lot of people have already decided how they're going to vote. They're looking at their emails and their letters that they keep repeating over and over and over again in this debate, that they're going to read on the mic, and they're really not coming and talking to me about the amendment and what it means, and I find that disappointing. But yet I'm going to prevail and move on. One of the things that I'm taking issue with is we are constantly using words like liberal and conservative on these mics like it's a dirty word. And I am asking you, I plead, do not stand up and say, I am a conservative senator, I am a liberal senator. Because really, if you look where they came from, a liberal senator, I'm one, I'm generous, I'm free, I'm broad-minded, not narrow. And if you look up conservative, you want to preserve traditions or institutions, resist change. But here's where our middle ground is. We sure are will to change what needs changing. We have determination to move things forward, like my amendment, and the wisdom to know the difference. You know, there's a little bit of talk about me trying to hitch a ride from the floor, and I'm sorry, but as Senator Groney said, I'm using every tool in my toolbox. But I want to remind many of you on the floor that since I came into this building, I have done nothing but allowed people to catch rides on my legislation. I remind everybody about LB 88. Senators who I have allowed to hitch rides on my legislation, Reapy Erdman, who actually did not vote my bill out of committee but still got a ride on it, Bostelman, Panzingbrooks, Coulterman, Crawford, bills like 61, 283, 342, 343, 425. The list is long. I didn't think twice when Senator Bostelman came and asked me to hitch a ride on 138, which was my priority bill. And granted, they didn't do it from the floor, but had they tried to do it from the floor, I probably would have let them, because I am here to be a nonpartisan senator. I'm here to help others get good things done. This is a good piece of legislation. It doesn't cost you anything. It also shows that you're not a hypocrite. You can't tell me that you are pro-woman, pro-child, pro-mother, pro-baby, and you're not willing to add one sentence to state statute that says you love and embrace them and you never want them to feel ostracized or in danger. I cannot stress to you enough, gentlemen especially that are in front of me and looking down at their desks. Women are amazing. We feed your children. Many of us raise your children. We support you. There are many households now where the women are the breadwinners, believe it or not. I know, it's a scary thought. We've got to do better. We can do better. This isn't a liberal notion. This is a loving, intelligent notion that's not going to hurt anybody. And if you say to me, which some of you have already said on the floor to me in private, well, there's a right way and a wrong way to breastfeed our children, I got news for you guys, just one way to breastfeed a child. And then you say, well, they need to cover up, because I don't want to see that. Fair enough, but when you're rushing around and you don't have time to grab a blanket, I challenge you on a hot summer day to go out and eat lunch on the front lawn out here with a blanket on your head and see how much you like it. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Blood. Senator Moore, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have not yet spoken on this bill, and I'm sorry to Senator Blood because I am going to talk about the underlying bill. I was part of the group that worked with Senator Albright, and I thank Senator Albright for her work to come up with a negotiation amendment on this bill. This body works on trust, and so part of that trust is recognizing that we worked together and we came up with something that maybe neither of us thought was perfect, but I thought it made it better. But there are a couple of things I want to put on the record. One is, I think words matter. And I think we've been sort of loosely using the term abortion reversal, which to me suggests that you either don't know what the word abortion means or you don't know what the word reversal means, because abortion is final, and I think we ought to make sure that everyone knows that. I think it's important that we don't say you can reverse something. You can't undo something once it's been done. And that's relevant to me because I don't think that we ever want any woman in a situation saying, you know, I listened to all that debate about reversal, so I'm just going to take the first pill and see how I feel about it. I don't want to put anyone in that position. I think we ought to be very careful about how we educate the people around us. And I think words matter. And I don't think that we can even imagine there's such a thing as reversal of a final event. I also think that in general, I don't care if it's on eye surgery, setting a leg, pulling a tooth, whatever, statute isn't the place for giving speeches that people have to say. That's just a principle I don't like. I just don't like the idea of compelling people to say certain things. I think that statutes aren't the place for that. So I still have a little heartburn. And lastly, I'd like to say in every one of the cases that I can remember that has either been brought up on this floor and we had enough information, or in the hearing, the woman in question Googled abortion reversal and found her information that way. So it seems to me that, no offense to the DHS website administrators, It's a little bit clunky as a website, and probably women are going to Google anyway. So this is a tricky one, because I don't think we ought to, I don't care what it's about. It really does not matter to me what it is about. I don't think we ought to be telling physicians what they ought to say to people. I don't care if it's true or false. I make no statement about the truth or falseness of it. I'm just talking about a principle. And I think we ought to be very careful with the words that we're using here in case people are watching and they be misled by what we say. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator DeBoer. Senator Vargas would like to introduce two interns that are serving with him today. They are under the north balcony. It is Christina Prentence and Virginia Hill from Virginia. Would you please stand and be recognized? Returning to the queues, Senator Mosier, Albright, Arch, Geist, and others. Senator Mosier, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to ask Senator Blood a question, if she'll answer it.
Senator Blood, would you please yield?
For you, Senator Mosier, I'd be happy to.
All right, well, that's a good attitude. I was reading this part of the law that already allows a mother to breastfeed, and then reading your amendment that goes beyond what's here. And I was wondering if you could explain the reason that your amendment is necessary when this part is already in the law.
That is a really good question. I appreciate you asking that question.
You're
welcome. Good job. Well done. So that part of statute that you read to me is civil law. So as a breastfeeding mother, I have the right to breastfeed in any place that I have the legal right to be. However, and I don't know if I consider this criminal law. I'm not an attorney, so hopefully an attorney will help me out if I'm wrong on this. Under public indecency laws, where you can be charged with public indecency, breastfeeding is not exempt. So for example, if I were to breastfeed in the middle of this room, and you felt affronted, is how our statute reads, which means offended by the curve of my breast, you would call 911 and ask that I be cited, and you could do so. So what this does is creates extra security for our breastfeeding mommies to know that no matter where they're at, they don't need to worry about some pearl clutcher being concerned about possibly being exposed to their breast.
So would your amendment, if it was, if you're trying to just put this into law, would it be better to put it in the same place these other mentions are of breastfeeding, or is it better to attach it to the law that Senator Albright is trying to bring?
That's another good question. So the first thing that you quoted was civil law, and my amendment is in chapter 28, which is the same chapter as is Senator Albright's. So if you look at state statute, so you're looking at what you have in your hand is civil law. That's chapter 20, I believe, right?
Right.
Okay,
Yes,
so my amendment and Senator Albright's bill, chapter 28, germaneness because of the chapter and because of the topic, and that it doesn't really change her topic by adding my amendment to the bill.
Okay. I just couldn't see the distinction, and I thought this might adequately answer the question whether it's permissible for a mother to breastfeed her child. So thank you for that answer. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Moser and Senator Blood. Senator Albright, you're recognized.
Thank you, Speaker Scheer. I do have, since we've got hours and upon hours, and we have new folks watching and listening, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the bill. When women do have to make this decision to go to a clinic to get an abortion, sometimes they make decisions that they wish they could take back, and sometimes those decisions are small and we quickly forget about them, and other times they're major ones and can be life-altering. So it doesn't surprise us that this happens with abortion. 55% of the abortions in the state of Nebraska, again, are medication abortions. Those are within 10 weeks of finding out that you're pregnant. The medication abortion begins with taking mifepristone. It is the first pill that they give you. And this bill today is, again, about one thing, and that's informed consent. It gives every woman a second chance at choice if she wants to pursue it. It ensures that no woman who regrets starting an abortion is left in despair. LB 209, as amended, would require that a woman be told the following, quote, research indicates that mifepristone alone is not always effective in ending a pregnancy. You may still have a viable pregnancy after taking mifepristone. If you change your mind and you want to continue your pregnancy after taking mifepristone, information on finding immediate medical assistance is available on the website of the Department of Health and Human Services, end of quote. All these statements are medically and factually accurate. They have one purpose in mind, to give the woman the information that she needs, including what to do if she changes her mind. There are doctors and nurse practitioners in Nebraska today who are helping women save their pregnancies after taking mifepristone. At the committee hearing, we heard from Teresa Kenny, a nurse practitioner in Omaha, who has assisted several women who came to her for help because they regretted taking mifepristone and wanted to save their babies. The committee also received a letter from Dr. Planback, which I read earlier to all of you, the OBGYN here in Lincoln, who's attended thousands of births. He assisted those 6 women who came for help. All 6 women delivered to term healthy babies, including 1 set of twins. I've distributed Dr. Planback's letter to you earlier with his experience and his support of LB 209. I also have a letter from Dr. Brett Thedinger, who had written his own personal letter, which I'd like to read into the record again today. This was dated on April 25th. Senator Albright, on March 19th of this year, the Nebraska Medical Association sent you a letter stating our opposition to 209. After review of additional information, we have taken a neutral position. Personally, I support the passage of LB 209. As a physician and surgeon, it is my ethical responsibility to inform my patients of all their options, the risks, the benefits, and alternatives, so as to make an informed decision regarding their medical treatment. LB 209 provides a pregnant woman additional information that the abortion pill may be reversed. As advocates for the physicians and health of all Nebraskans, it is my request that you support and vote for LB 209. That was a personal letter from him on his letterhead.
1 minute.
This helps, the help that is available to women who regret having begun the first process of mifepristone abortion only helps women if they know about it. No woman should find out weeks or months later that she could have saved her pregnancy if only she had known it was possible. LB 209 gives a woman accurate information about all their options. This bill has broad support in this body, and I have been encouraged by the support it has received from many doctors and nurses across the state of Nebraska. It gives women hope, control over their own medical treatment, and another...
Time, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Albright. Senator Arch, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of LB 209, but I'm not here to speak today on science or the research or any of that, but rather I want to talk about something probably even a little more difficult, and that is compassion. Compassion and passion. Because I think what we see on the floor today and what we've heard in testimony are both. From various perspectives, all, I believe, are speaking passionately about this issue, But I believe that everyone is also speaking compassionately about this issue as well. And of course, compassion comes in when you ask yourself the question, what is in the best interest of the woman at this particular time? What is in the best interest of the patient as they would be seen by the physician? What is in their best interest? And we may disagree on that. And I think what you're seeing is disagreement of what is in the best interest of the patient. We know that there's disagreement because we've heard this expressed on the floor about the research and how robust is the research and is it enough research and all of that. And you even read in the literature that there's disagreement amongst physicians whether there is enough. We've gone over the FDA approval process. We've gone over off-label prescribing. We know that progesterone is an approved medication by the FDA, not for this particular situation, but it is an approved medication for other, and then we also know that it's used for other off-label uses as well. And so it is the physician's clinical judgment at that point to say, yes, I believe there is enough research. Yes, I believe there is enough evidence. Yes, I believe that in my professional judgment that the benefit outweighs the potential risk, and after notifying the patient of the potential risks, then the medication is prescribed. But there's disagreement there as well as to is there enough research. But this we know, that in this particular situation where the woman is faced with this decision, it is a very difficult decision. For some women, this is probably the largest decision that they've made, and they know that. They're experiencing that, as we've read and we've heard in some of the letters that have been read into the record today. And so the question becomes really, from a compassionate perspective, do they have the right to know? Is it the compassionate thing to do? And we deal with this issue. We deal with this issue with regards to benefits and regards to some of our social service. I mean, we sit in that HHS committee and we hear very, very difficult lives and very, very difficult issues that people are facing in their life, and how can we help? Is really a question of compassion and resources and all of those things put together, but compassion very much a part of it. And so in this case, then the question becomes, what is the compassionate thing to do? Does the woman have the right to know? And maybe we fall on different sides of that issue. And I think that's maybe what we're hearing in our debate today. But it's still a question, and it isn't as though one side of this issue or the other side of the issue has all the compassion and the other one doesn't. But it is something that we're wrestling with today. But that's really all I wanted to say on that. I do have a quick question for Senator Blood, if she would be willing to yield, because we're also dealing with the amendment here.
Senator Blood, would you please yield?
Yes, I'd be happy to yield to Senator Arch.
Thank you. So my quick question is this. Is there anything in this amendment that would prevent, say, let's use a restaurant as an example. If a woman needs to breastfeed in a restaurant, is there anything that would prevent the owner's representative from asking to, if there's others around that are expressing some discomfort, does this in any way impinge upon an owner asking a woman to cover up? I mean, I know we're talking about citations, about criminal behavior, but does this in any way impinge upon private rights in that respect?
Well, sir, I'm not an attorney.
Senators. Thank you, Senator Arch and Senator Blood.
Too long a question.
Senator Geist, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I would ask Senator Blood if she'd yield to a question.
Senator Blood, would you yield?
I would be happy to, Senator Geist.
Senator Blood, would you go ahead and answer the question that Senator Arch asked?
Yes, so if I understand the question correctly, if I own a restaurant, somebody's breastfeeding, I want them to cover up, can I ask them to cover up? Is that the correct question? So if she has the legal right to be there in existing law, under civil law, she has the legal right to breastfeed that child.
is that all?
Yeah, there's,
Okay.
I mean, it's
Okay.
pretty black and white.
Okay, thank you, Senator Blood.
And that's not under my amendment, that's under current existing law.
Okay, thank you, Senator Blood. I would say if she has the right to be there and they can't ask her to cover up, then maybe we're good where we are. No, that I don't need to ask a question, Senator Blood. Thank you, though. I appreciate your response. I was going to just give a little more information about the study that I cited earlier, but I was compelled by what Senator Arch was saying, and kind of also segueing into what I was saying earlier about people of faith, and that I think sometimes people get a skewed view of what the intent of the heart is, and I would just want to add to that. I think that's one of the things that adds richness to our body. We do all come from different, we bring with us to this chamber our backgrounds and the things that have formed our experience. And because of that, I think it makes us all better legislators. We all see things from a different perspective, and I think that's a good thing and a positive thing. And being able to understand each other's perspective better is one of the benefits of debating on this floor. And so I've come to respect the opportunity to do that and the opportunity to listen to people who have a completely different perspective than I do, and I find that that makes me learn, and I appreciate that. So no matter what side we find ourselves on this issue, I think we can agree that we have compassion for the woman who is making this very difficult decision. So I just want to echo Senator Arch's point that that might not often be heard on this side of this issue, and that is the compassion that is there for the people that are experiencing this very difficult decision. And speaking for myself, a huge lack of judgment from someone who makes a decision maybe that I would not have made, but a decision that in many cases, from what I've learned from many women who've gone through this decision, that they are in their mind doing the best thing they think for themselves. And so I can understand that. Moving on to just some more details about the study from the New England Journal of Medicine, which I'll also say is one of the most reputable, if not the most, in the medical environment, and one I know that physicians greatly respect. And I'm probably going to wreck this guy's last name, but Ari Kumarasamy, a study leader and consultant gynecologist at Birmingham Women and Children's Hospital, said the treatment, which is progesterone for risky pregnancies, which is what mifepristone causes, said the treatment can save thousands of babies' lives. We hope that this evidence will be considered by the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, and that it will be used to update the national guidelines for women at risk of miscarriage. At the present, when women are potentially miscarrying, there is nothing we can offer them. But he said that the treatment would not work for all women who miscarry, because there are many complex reasons why miscarriage occurs. Only those women with progesterone-related problems could benefit. And please understand that what mifepristone does is it counteracts progesterone, which is why it makes logical sense that this would work. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Geist. Senator Gragert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of LB 209 and yield my time to Senator Albright.
Senator Albright, 450.
Thank you very much, Speaker Scheer and Senator Gragert. You know, there have been many phone calls to my office, several emails as well. We've had a lot of people throughout the state of Nebraska interested in this issue. And I just want to kind of hopefully help Senator DeBoer understand from myself why I feel this needs to be in state statute. If we do not let those who abort our children know that these mothers have a right to know, and they must know, they must be told that they have a second chance to make a different decision if they should get to that point after taking that first mifepristone pill. It's to protect that unborn and to help that mother know that she has another choice. And if we do not have that in state statute, we would not be able to save the many, many, many children today who are not welcomed into this world because of the abortion process. I'm very much concerned. I think Senator Slama read off the number of children that have not become a part of the population here in Nebraska. Nearly 51,000 since 2000. There were like 4,100, 4,200, maybe 4,400 in 1 year. And that, that breaks my heart to think that how many of those children could very well be here today had they known that they didn't have to go through the process of the full abortion and not bring that baby into this world. I think that, this isn't just about, stopping somebody from doing something maybe that they shouldn't. It's not my choice to tell them. It's not my business to tell them. But it is my sincere and compelling feeling and reasoning to do so, because if that doctor performing that abortion does not give them all that information, I mean, today it states in our statute that they have to have an ultrasound, but just because they have to do the ultrasound in the clinic doesn't mean they have to show the mother the ultrasound. They don't want to talk about it as being a unborn child. They want to talk about it as being a fetus, dehumanizing it, that it's just a mass that will be gently extracted. These women that go into those clinics have every right to know what's going to happen to them and what their choices are. There's so much more to all of this that we're talking about today, but again, I'm going to bring you back to its informed consent, giving the woman the ability to call a hotline, have a hotline, put her with a doctor that would help her throughout the rest of her pregnancy and save that unborn child that does not have a voice. And I'm just very thankful that we were able to work through this in the Judiciary Committee. Again, thank you, Senator Lathrop and your staff, for working with the Nebraska Catholic Conference, who did bring this bill to me, along with the Nebraska Family Alliance. All of those folks that I've been working with have been very congenial and easy to work with and try to understand this bill for what it's to be. And again, thank you to Senator Slama, Brandt, Wayne, and DeBoer for bringing it out of the Judiciary Committee. And with that, I'll yield my time back. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Grigert and Senator Albright. Senator Hunt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If any of you think that this would be a better state if pregnant people were forced to give birth, then I'm glad you said that on the record, because that's saying a lot. When you look at this statistical report of abortions that a lot of people are talking about, incest, sexual assault, socioeconomic, can't afford to have a child right now. If you think our state would be better if those people were forced to become parents, then I hope you keep saying that, because that's something that you should definitely stand by. Respectfully to Senator Geist, she's citing an out-of-date study that she keeps talking about, just because it makes sense in your gut that a medical procedure might work because of an anecdote or because of this application of a medication being used for something else and it worked, does not mean that we can apply it to this specific treatment. a recently published article in the New England Journal of Medicine. This was, it was like May 7th or something of this year. It was really recent. Found that in the largest randomized controlled trial to date, progesterone therapy administered during the first trimester for patients at risk of miscarriage did not result in a higher incidence of live births than placebo. Extrapolating from that study, we could say, and also based on the data that doctors gave us in testimony during the committee hearing, based on research that other people have done, if you took a handful of Skittles between mifepristone and misoprostol, you'd have just as high of a rate as whatever quackery that DHHS is going to be telling these people. Senator Clements was talking about this pro-life gynecologist organization with 2,500 members, and oh, 2,500 members, how can 2,500 members be wrong? Do you know how many people are in the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists? 58,000. They don't support this. Do you know how many people are members of the American Medical Association? About 218,000. They don't support this. We cannot keep saying this is about science. The scientific community says this is invalid. And just say that you want to make it more difficult for women to access reproductive health care. That's all this is about. Just say that and go. You don't have to do this ring around the rosy about actually this is scientifically valid. It's just not. And you know what? Maybe someday it will be. Maybe we need to wait and see the studies that are being done now and see what the outcomes of those things are. But today, in 2019, this is a model bill brought by a religious organization. It's completely transparent to all of us, and I think that we're being insulting to Nebraskans, and we're being insulting to the scientific community by acting like there's any validity behind any of this, and that this is anything about anything other than preventing women from going to the doctor to get health care. It's literally all this is. So what about DHHS? What did they say? Over lunch, I was trying to talk to DHHS, can't get a straight answer. They told Senator Wishart that they'll be referring patients under this bill to the abortion pill reversal hotline. That's Delgado's organization. And maybe when I said that on the floor, they got freaked out. I don't know why they're not being clear with me, but now they're refusing to be clear about their intentions for these patients. And they're saying, well, there have been discussions about using the abortion pill reversal hotline. That's definitely come up. So colleagues, senators, I don't think that this is something we should pass that we can support unless we know where these patients are being referred to. And DHHS is not being direct about that. If they're going to be referring patients to a religious organization that is making money from us passing bills like this, that's really unethical. We don't have enough information to pass this. Like, that's not great. Pro-life cannot mean anti-science. Before a woman gets an abortion, she has to have total certainty. And now with this bill, we have, if you change your mind, you can get it reversed, which is much lower than the bar that we currently have. And I think that it's just really cruel to let someone hold out hope for something that hasn't been medically tested and proven. Senator Arch talked about compassion, and he said that when you ask yourself what's in the best interest of the woman, we just have disagreements about what's in the best interest of that patient. Well, I called this hotline that DHHS wants to use, and the hotline referred me to a church. Does the Nebraska Legislature think that's in the best interest of women? That's not in the best interest of a patient. Patients need expert care from doctors. Doctors oppose this bill. The American Medical Association says there's no such thing because we don't have evidence for it. This is not a moral argument about this medical procedure. This is a moral argument at this point about what our role is as legislators and what we're putting in statute that's compelling patients to do something that's just not backed up by science. It doesn't matter what you feel or think. This stuff is provable and testable.
Thank you, Senator Hunt.
Thank you.
Senator Breezy, you're recognized. Senator Breezy, are you in the area? See, not Senator Kavanaugh, you're recognized. Okay, strike two. How about Senator Bosselman? Are you around? You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon. I am here, unlike maybe some others. So the debate continues as we talk about providing information to women. about giving them information, an area that they can go to learn more if they so choose at one, either the provider or through DHHS or to wherever that referral might be. Whether, I have not called out to those numbers to find out exactly where they are, but I do believe, and would Senator Albright yield to a question?
Senator Albright, would you please yield?
Yes.
Can you help me a little bit? And my understanding, DHHS will be responsible or has or will be responsible to set up a website or some information online. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that fully engaged? Is that fully operational? Is that in full use right now? Do you know?
No, it will be if this passes.
So if this passes, DHHS will then set up a new website, a new link that actually provides information and will then refer people to whom. Do you know how that will work? Could you walk me through that?
Well, if this bill should pass, they would be looking for different private or public organizations, whether they use a national hotline, whether they use someone here in the state, wherever the women are currently going. I'm quite certain there's probably some doctors that will say, you know, if you're a GP, if you're a gynecologist, a lot of people take care of women that are pregnant, and a lot of them know the protocol to take care of things. So I feel very confident that they'll be able to put this together just like they do other hotlines for suicide, child abuse, other issues that they have.
So my understanding is what we're talking about is they will reach out or go through, maybe it's through the state organization or something, to find the appropriate physicians, appropriate contacts to provide the information. And that could be a wide range of individuals and not just one specific location or area. Is that
correct? Yes.
So what we're hearing right now is probably a system that isn't fully operational, doesn't work. That's exactly why we need to pass this bill.
Yes.
So that information can be put out there, so we can get a diverse, I guess you would say, source of information, physicians from within the state, other resources that a woman would have to reach out to learn more that does not exist today, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, Senator Albright. I continue to support LB 209. I think it's very important that we do provide an opportunity for women to learn more about opportunities or alternatives to the decisions they made already. If they have questions, to go out and learn. Obviously, what I'm hearing on the floor today during the debate is that doesn't exist. And that doesn't exist in a proper format. And so what we're trying to do, what you're trying to do, if you will, with this is to provide that proper format, to provide that information in a way so that it is not, maybe I could use biased in one way or the other, so that there is a wider, diverse group of individuals that can be, that the woman can then reach out to and talk with to give them the information so they can be more informed on making a decision as to what they may want to do next with regard to the pregnancy. Is that correct, Senator Albright?
Yes.
I would thank you for that, Senator Albright, because I think that really answers a lot of the questions, I guess, that I'm hearing on the floor right now, is that it doesn't exist, it's bad, it doesn't work, we're sending people to the wrong places. So what we're going to do with this bill, or what you're going to do with this bill, is actually create that website and create that system that's appropriate, that's used in appropriate ways to give that information in a non-specific or specified area. As we heard, it's a church. It's not going to go there. It's going to go to physicians, other clinics, or whatever it might be that have the expertise, the skill, that practice in this area, so that the women can receive information if they so choose. I would yield the rest of my time to Senator Albright.
You would, except there's none left. Thank you, Senator Bosselman. Mr. Clerk, do you have a motion on the desk?
Senator Albright would move to invoke cloture on LB 209 pursuant to Rule 7, Section 10.
It's the ruling of the chair. There's been full and fair debate afforded to LB 209. Senator Albright, for what purpose do you rise?
To invoke cloture, and I'd like a call of the House and in numerical order. Roll call.
There's been a request to place the House under call. The question is, shall the House go under a call? All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Please record.
31 ayes, 2 nays to go under call, Mr. President.
The House is under call. Senators, please record your presence. Those unexcused senators outside the chamber, please return to the chamber and record your presence. All unauthorized personnel, please leave the floor. The House is under call. Senators Matt Hansen, Senator Vargas, Senator Panzine Brooks, Senator Klowski, Senator Brewer, Senator LaGrone, please return to the floor. The House is under call. Senator Panzine Brooks, Senator Brewer, please return to the floor. The House is under call. Senator Brewer, the House is under call. Please return to the floor. Colleague, Senator Brewer is on his way. We will stand at ease for a few seconds. All senators are accounted for. Members, the first vote is the motion to invoke cloture. All those in favor, we wanted a roll call in regular order. This needs 33 affirmative votes. Mr. Clerk.
Senator Albright. Voting yes, Senator Arch. Voting yes, Senator Blood. Voting no, Senator Bowles. Voting yes, Senator Bostelman. Voting yes, Senator Brandt. Voting yes, Senator Brewer. Voting yes, Senator Breezy. Voting yes, Senator Kavanaugh. Not voting, Senator Chambers. Voting no, Senator Clements. Voting yes, Senator Crawford. Not voting, Senator DeBoer. Voting yes, Senator Dorn. Voting yes, Senator Erdman. Voting yes, Senator Friesen. Voting yes, Senator Geist. Voting yes, Senator Gregert. Voting yes, Senator Groney. Voting yes, Senator Halloran. Voting yes, Senator Ben Hansen. Voting yes, Senator Matt Hansen. Voting no, Senator Hilgers. Voting yes, Senator Hilkeman. Voting yes, Senator Howard. Voting no, Senator Hughes. Voting yes, Senator Hunt. Voting no, Senator Kolowski. Voting no, Senator Colderman. Voting yes, Senator LaGrone. Voting yes, Senator Lathrop. Voting yes, Senator Lindstrom. Voting yes, Senator Linehan. Voting yes, Senator Lowe. Voting yes, Senator McAllister. Voting no, Senator McDonald. Voting yes, Senator Morfeld. Voting no, Senator Moser. Voting yes, Senator Merman. Voting yes, Senator Pansy Brooks. Voting no, Senator Quick. Voting yes, Senator Scheer. Voting yes, Senator Slama. Voting yes, Senator Stinner. Voting yes, Senator Vargas. Voting no, Senator Walls. Voting yes, Senator Wayne. Senator Williams. Voting yes, Senator Wishart. Voting no. Vote is 35 ayes, 11 nays to invoke cloture.
Motion to invoke cloture is adopted. The next item is the adoption of MO 105. Oh, excuse me, from AM 1875. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Now that I've decided, is there anyone else undecided? Please record.
43 ayes, 3 nays on the adoption of the amendment.
AM 1875 is adopted. Last question before us is advancement of LB 209, DNR engrossing. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
36 ayes, 9 nays on the advancement of the bill.
LB 209 is advanced DNR engrossing. I raise the call. Next item, Mr. Clerk. Items, Ms. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. President. New resolution LR 258 by Senator Erdman. That will be laid over. Your Committee on Enrollment and Review reports Legislative Bill 720, 720A, and 436, all to select files, some with ENR amendments, and a motion to be printed to LB 686A from Senator Lathrop. That's all I have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next item.
Mr. President, Legislative Bill 470A, Senator LaGrone would move to return the bill to select file for a specific amendment. That amendment is 1896.
Senator LaGrone, you're welcome to open.
Thank you, Mr. President. When we considered this bill on select file, we had a number of technical amendments. And the long story short is I withdrew the amendment we actually needed adopted, and the result is that currently the A bill actually defunds Senator Wayne's portion of the bill. Obviously, that was not the intent, so we need to return it to select file to complete the fund transfer to fund Senator Wayne's portion of the bill. So I'd ask for your green vote to return, and then on the amendment, and then to advance to final again. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator LaGrone. Seeing no one wishing to speak, you're welcome to close. He waives closing. The question before us is returning LB 470A to select file. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
44 ayes, no nays on the motion to return the bill.
LB 470A is returned to select file. Mr. Clerk.
Senator LaGrone, AM 1896.
Senator LaGrone, you're welcome to open on AM 1896.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the amendment that corrects the A bill to complete the funds transfer.
Seeing no one wishing to speak, you're welcome to close. He waives closing on AM 1896. The question before us is adoption of AM 1896 to LB 470A. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
Forty ayes, no nays on the adoption of the amendment, Mr. President.
AM 1896 is adopted. Senator Slama for motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 470A be advanced to R for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. LB 470A is advanced to R engrossing. Proceeding to final reading, Mr. Clerk.
Gross Local Bill 15, introduced by Bill General, some no price 7 news, 41 Brad Farnham, Morris, Van Holland for 30. Bill for inoculating insurance, adopted Children Nebraska Hearing Aid Act, being acted because of there should be no side of the Nebraska Hearing Aid Act. Legislative findings declares the impact of hearing loss age of bill of glass of the constitutes a hearing aid to some the need for special education service, increasing academic children by hearing loss, some the state and federal governments. Purpose of Children Nebraska Hearing Aid system includes independent coverage insurance delivering some in the state. Health insurance plan, some health insurance, hospital care plan, self-funded employee benefit plan, the extent of federal laws, something the policy contractor plan offered. Administered by the state or its political subdivisions, health insurance plan, another group, some long-term care coverage, and mental benefit coverage. Hearing case, some hearing system, licensed body officers, health insurance, less 19 years of age. Begin January 1, 2020, for the section of 4131 health insurance plan delivery modified in the states because of the child. Such coverage will be subject to the section of hearing impairment following services of hearing aid purchased from its licensed all because of such hearing aid is hearing aid. Fitting the hearing aid for some less protective targets, hearing aid repairs of following some hearing aid. Sometimes if it is multiple person hearing with some training because some $40,000 not exceed $8,000. Coverage from this and the list of coverage in the hearing part of the associated services. Coverage by insurance system because insurance is the health insurance plan. Health insurance not covers the hearing impairment. Health insurance plans because of insurance and covers some 1% of all premiums collected on the plan here. Department of Insurance promulgate rules and regulations of the Children Nebraska Hearing Aid Act.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 15 pass? All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Mr. Clerk, please record.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Arch, Blood, Bowles, Bostelman, Brandt, Brewer, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Clements, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Urban, Friesen, Geis, Greger, Groney, Halloran, Ben Hanson, Matt Hanson, Hilgers, Hilkeman, Howard Hughes, Hunt, Kolowski, Colderman, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Merman, Banzi, Brooks, Quick, Shears, Lamas, Tinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, none. Not voting, Senators LeGrone. Vote is 48 ayes, no nays. One excuse, not voting, Mr. President.
LB 15 passes. We'll now proceed to LB 218E.
Eagles Bill 218, everybody wants some 18, bill from the Revenue and Tax Administration 7713 11727 136 provision by an operator bill the original section may not convey some legal emergency by this and then may read real property being all lands something transmission distribution street something of the state mobile homes trailer case something that's not registered how we use in the utilizing residential course and because of the something that's the property location of the business. Monument requires this with respect to holding classes, something that's in this section. Section 277, 117, located them, there's nothing on it, item. Section 371, 2701, there's something that is something that lease upon the recovery came the retailers and the retailers. Gross price something there's something the speed was something gross income for the answer serving this is good for government, something that can add numbers as a service. The French telecommunications something that's something mobile that's something the same as something basically as by use in Nebraska. French telegraph something services. The French gas something that's like something availing something consumer service over there something that is upon building something the customer service there's something the French such community. There's something specified subject to the section of community intent service. satellite service specified 2D in the section. This will be treated as a consumer building of the subject to the section the street lighting structures or facilities in my political subdivision of the state. Registered gas selling leasing and other state laws because the computer software something like others from the seller purchasing videotape movies and the program the charge. Registered the service including something that made some things because of the debating computer software team these and the why they could service of the was paid remain the service of the because something would be in a subject sales new tax of the motor vehicles up to 70426. 70450. You get something to find something is about less about this line. Connected with something, materials, something, or something. So we can some materials and there is some the payment. Whereas you legalize them, there's for the real estate. Something calling a president, something there's storage of the permanent right to use. Transfer use of one could advantage of the convenient payment. Whereas receipts are not good. The amount of any rebate grant motor vehicle, budget something would be so I can take from the sale price of motor vehicle, the rest properties, and the refunds either in cash or in credit. Section 4 of the Act will become July 1, 2019. Section 5 of Ordinance 77103, 117, 270116, reissued by statute and Nebraska repealed. Section 6, since an emergency exists, this action will take effect and pass and ruled according to law.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, should LB 218 pass with emergency clause attached? All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. This will take 33 affirmative votes. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Arts, Blood, Bowles, Bosselman, Brandt, Brewer, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Clements, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Urban, Friesen, Geis, Gregory, Groney, Halloran, Ben Hansen, Matt Hansen, Hilgers, Elkman, Howard Hughes, Hunt, Koloski, Colderman, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Lynn, Hanlow, McAllister, Moore, McDonald, Moorfeld, Moser, Perman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick Shears, Slamas, Tanner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, none. Not voting, Senator LeGrone. Vote is 48 ayes, no nays, one excuse, not voting.
LB 218 passes with emergency clause attached. We'll now proceed to LB 309.
Bill 309, needs by Lathrop Trouble Bill for not planning court ministers, some of the case number just for judicial section. Be enacted by the people of the state of Nebraska, 2430-102, submitted to the minister, submitted to the following workers, submitted to Jefferson, Gate, submitted to Homer, Richard Noto, Secretary of the SRP Gas, District Number 3, Seward County, Lancaster, Number 40, submitted to Barry Clive, Colfax, Moon, Nats, submitted to Saunders, submitted to Dixon, Dakota, Cedarsburg, Thurston, Dodge, and Washington, District, submitted to County, Knoxville, submitted to Sanders, submitted to the county chairs, Capella, submitted to Sherman, Howard, submitted to Big County, Buffalo, and Hall. District that is Bill 278, Franklin, Bill Strickland, Huckles, and this, and together, Hooker, Thomas, Arthur, and there's first, Larry Perkins, Lincoln, and this, and the Frontier, Jasper, Dundee Key, submitted to the furnace, and there's some there, Sue, Dawson, Musgrave, submitted to the Banner, Kimmel, Jr., from the Grand Duel. Till July 1, 2021, the 14th, and the 16 judges of the District Court, beginning July 1, 2021, the 4th judiciary, there should be 17 judges of the District Court. In the 3rd District should be 8 judges of the District Court. In the 2nd, 5th, 9th, and 11th, there should be 4 judges of the District Court. In the 1st and 6th districts, there will be 3 judges of the District Court, and 7th, 8th, and 10th, there will be 2 judges of the District Court. Section 2, original Section 2430-102, revised Act CUMSAP 2018 is repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, should LB 309 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Arts, Blood, Bowles, Bosselman, Brandt, Brewer, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Clements, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Friesen, Geist, Gregory, Groney, Ben Hansen, Hilgers, Helkeman, Howard Hughes, Hunt, Koloski, Colderman, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Lynn, Hanlow, McAllister, McDonald, Moorfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Rose, Quick, Shears, Lamas, Tinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, none. Not voting, Senators Erdman, Holloran, Matt Hansen, and LeGrone. Senator Matt Hansen, voting yes. Vote is 40, 6 ayes, no nays, 2 present, not voting, 1 excused, not voting, Mr. President.
LB 309 passes. Proceeding now to LB 538.
Mr. President, Senator Wayne has moved to return 538 to select file for a specific amendment.
Senator Wayne, you're recognized to open on your motion to return the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. If you recall that this is a bill that I necessarily don't like, I'm not trying to take it the distance, but I do want a straight up or down vote. And I'm doing this in a way that I don't want to offend my colleagues from rural Nebraska. My amendment that I'm asking to be put on here came to me over the last couple days when I was talking about property tax relief to a lot of people. And I say, well, I believe in taxing gambling. We need to have gambling, and we should be taxing it, and that'll be a way to reduce property tax. Then I started having a conversation again yesterday with some individuals, and they said, what about game of skills such as sports betting? I said on the mic that we should tax sports betting. Then they said, well, why aren't you taxing the gaming machines for property tax relief? I said, well, that would fall in the same realm of my logic and what I've been consistent about, and that's what this amendment does. It says that the $250 fee, annual fee, would go towards the Department of Revenue Enforcement Fund, but outside of that, 6% of the gross sales, and I got that from Senator Blood's bill that was in a committee that we talked about on the floor, or in this committee I talked about last time on this bill. 6% of the gross revenue would go towards property tax relief fund. And I'm saying this in a way to say I do not mean to offend those who are looking for substantial property tax relief, and I hope my rural colleagues don't take it that way. But in order for me to be consistent, when I say that next year I'm bringing a bill to tax gambling, and that we should have gambling, and that we should have what I call games of skill, such as sports betting, and we should tax that, and everything we tax should go to property tax relief, that's what this underlining amendment does. Now, again, let me be clear. I do not expect this to solve property tax problems, but I do think that when the gray area is removed on what is a machine of gaming and what is not a machine, that there will be more machines in this state. And that $250 annual fee is not enough, that if we're going to treat this device and have the precautions of gaming, that it should be taxed and that relief should go to property tax relief. Again, I did not get a chance to talk to Senator Lathrop about this. I had an exec session. I wasn't here all morning. I had to run downstairs and hop on another hearing, and I came up here, so I do publicly apologize for not giving him a heads up. I think that is the right thing to do anytime you put an amendment. I did not have that opportunity, so I want to apologize for that. But I am not trying to take this for a while. I just think in order for me to be consistent in what I do and what I believe, this amendment had to be put on here. And with that, I would ask for a green vote to move back and a green vote to put this as the underlining bill. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Wayne. Debate is now open on the motion to return the bill to select file. Senator Chambers.
Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President. There was a fellow named Ralph Waldo Emerson, and although it sounds like something that Oscar Wilde may have said, I believe it was Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I stand to be corrected. From having listened to Senator Wayne, everybody knows that if there's one thing he does not have, it's a little mind. Now that can be taken two ways. Not even a little mind. But if that's what I meant, that's what I would have said. The statement was, a slavish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. I think we should save Senator Wayne from himself. Not that he doesn't know what he's doing, but he feels an obligation based on what he said to do this. I sometimes do have a little mind. And my little mind was distressed because I had to be in exec session with the Judiciary Committee when that LB 209 was going forth, and I did not have a chance to read what I wanted to read. But because the way things are going now this session, it's appropriate for me to read it. This is just one part of it. It's much longer than this. If the tables turned and men got pregnant, laws would cause no friction. All abortions would be in, and that without the least restriction. Everywhere one turned, there'd be a place to help a man abort, regardless whether pregnancy resulted from a rape or sport. Burger King, McDonald's, diversify. A pregnant bloke at their stores, abortion could obtain with burgers, fries, and Coke. If in fact the truth be told, convenience would be paramount, and none would criticize or scold, and there would be no running count. If males had abortions, none, that fact would see the need to hide. Like gunslingers notch on gun, each would be a mark of pride. We know good and well that if abortions could be had by men, we wouldn't have this nonsense because men wouldn't take it, and women wouldn't dare to bring all this craziness that they've been hoodwinked into bringing, which makes them traitors to their own gender. This idea of all this abortion nonsense did not originate with women. And what they don't know is that the Catholic Church didn't even think the same thing of women that they thought of men, and you all don't know it either because you didn't read the Catholic Encyclopedia as extensively as I did. A male fetus was ensouled, E-N-S-O-U-L-E-D, received a soul at an earlier stage than a female. Now, if a male received a soul at an earlier stage than a female, that male fetus, or embryo it would have been at that point, was protected from abortion if there'd be one. But since a female received a soul later, then if there was some way to determine that this was going to be a female child, you could abort and you were not destroying a human being because it did not have a soul. Did you know that was in the Catholic doctrine at one time? If you doubt it, read it. You all don't read anything except what they spoon feed you like pablum. Then you take it and run with it. But I'll tell you what, I bet if you were a childbearing age and you were raped, you'd want an abortion, and you'd get one too. And there'd be a Catholic doctor who'd perform it, because when I was at Creighton, I knew a doctor who performed abortion on Catholic girls who got pregnant and their families had money. I know what I'm talking about. And I know the hypocrisy, and you women don't know because you don't read and they're not going to tell you. They pop their finger and you jump. Then when it gets popular to pass all these crazy bills.
It's time, Senator.
Then men,
Thanks, Senator Chambers. Senator Lathrop.
Good afternoon, Mr. President and colleagues. Senator Wayne. I think this might be like the 8th run at this bill by Senator Wayne. Sometimes he stands up and says, I'm for gambling, and then he drops an amendment. Then he says, I don't like these machines. Then he drops an amendment. Today, he's dropping an amendment on final reading and telling you it's property tax relief. Kind of like we've turned the latest incarnation of a speed bump into pandering to people who had a bad day yesterday. I, of course, appreciate the effort to provide for property tax relief. If we're going to try to tax these machines, then it ought to go through the Revenue Committee or through the General Affairs Committee, and we ought to have a hearing on it and talk about what they raise and where the money should go and that sort of thing. This is just another attempt to derail the bill, and I hope you'll give it a red light and support LB 538 on final reading. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Lathrop. Senator Clements.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, the amendment's not showing up on my computer screen. I get an error message when I try to read it, so I haven't been able to read it. Second of all, I do oppose expanding gambling, and even if it provides some income tax relief or property tax relief. I think we've seen in other states, we've got the problem gambling commission here that we have to fund each year. Even the small amount of gambling we do have still causes problems, and to me it's not worth the money that we might take in for these social costs that we get to have to deal with. So I oppose the motion, and urge you to vote red. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Clements. Senator Chambers.
Mr. President, members of the legislature, most of you have heard the term Pandora's box. To oversimplify, and I mean it is an oversimplification, that's when you start something and there's more that emerges than was anticipated. Senator Wayne's motion opens a Pandora's box and out popped property tax. I'd like to ask Senator Breezy a question, if he would respond.
Senator Breezy, would you yield, please?
Yes.
And remember, I said respond, I didn't necessarily say answer.
Oh.
Senator Breezy, have you ever heard of a former senator named Terry Carpenter, and he was referred to as Terrible Terry, and he came from Scotts Bluff and had an area known as Terrytown? Had you ever heard of him?
Yes, I have.
He had quite a large reputation, didn't he?
I believe so, yeah.
I'm going to tell you one thing Terry Carpenter delighted in saying. And because the people here are not in a position to have heard Terry, I won't try to imitate his voice, but he said, politics is a dirty, double-crossing game, and that's why I love it. Now, Senator Breezy, here's the question I will put to you. Do you believe that Terry Carpenter may have had a point when he said politics is a dirty, double-crossing game? Do you think he had a point, or do you think he was just out of his head?
I wouldn't say that it is a dirty double-crossing game, but it can be.
And that's all that I will ask of you. Thank you. Members of the legislature, there are critters out there, and somebody told me when I wasn't on the floor that a senator in speaking against hemp said if you feed the hemp and these animals get it, they'll eat their young. I thought that was preposterous, but then as I saw some things happening subsequent to that, as recently as yesterday, maybe there was a point to that. I have said, I don't know how many times, that you cannot trust people in the legislature. You cannot take them at their word, that they will look you in the eye and lie. Now, sometimes a person may believe an individual because he or she is naive, or may have doubts but hopes against hope that this once what the person says can be relied on. And then, even though there are warning bells that sound in his or her head, metaphorically speaking, that person will take the plunge and will commit himself or herself to a course of conduct relying on the other party to deliver. A man once told me that there was a certain group of people who would teach their children not to trust anybody. So whenever one of them had a child of a certain age, the child would be placed atop the refrigerator. They called them ice boxes in those days, and would stand with arms outstretched and say, okay, jump. Then when the child jumped, the father would move his hands and the child would fall on the floor. And then the father would explain, don't trust anybody. It's too bad that some of my colleagues did not have that lesson brought home, and that they ignored all of my warnings of what will happen around here. Well, this is not the bill for me to go into all of that. This is something like what they call a trailer. So all I can say, brothers and sisters, fasten your seat belts, tighten your chin strap, because before this session is over, we're going to talk about perfidy, dishonesty, untrustworthiness, treachery. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Chambers. Senator Wayne.
Thank you, colleagues. This isn't a thank you, Mr. President. This isn't pandering to anybody who lost yesterday. The fact of the matter is, Senator Lathrop, this legislature isn't the same legislature that was when you were down here before. We think differently, we think independently, and at the end of the day, I don't get on the mic and question one's integrity, but to do so probably means I should run this the whole time. Probably means that on 686, let's have a conversation about all my bills in there, and let's start dividing the question, and let's drag this out. Because that's what happens when people start getting personal. And that's not what I do. What I said from day one is I didn't like this bill. I never took it to a filibuster. In fact, I stopped the conversation between Senator and Chambers and I to make sure your vote count didn't increase. But what you didn't say on the mic is the last time that I took an hour and a half, allowed a compromise to go on between senators that I won't mention because they didn't mention it, but allowed to change it and amend it to make sure the bill can move forward. The fact of the matter is, as I have said from day one, I have gambling in my backyard. You don't have to cross the river no more. You can just go to Carter Lake. And I have always said from day one, whether it's gambling or game of skills, it should be property tax relief. You are trying to address what you consider a gaming device, a gambling issue. We have so much concern that we are limiting to a number per square foot. Everybody in here has got an email about this is gonna double. We take out the gray area, add more machines. And we don't know what that revenue is gonna be. You're absolutely right. But the point of it is if it's a gaming device or a game of skill, it should be taxed and it should go to property tax relief. And to think that I'm pandering when I've been the one who's been here many times a night sitting in revenue, trying to solve conversations, having late night conversations with many rural senators about how to solve this property tax issue. The fact that I drove here, drove back home, and drove back here to work on issues, I'm gonna keep my light on. We're gonna go the whole time. And on 686, we're gonna talk about my bills that in committee I said I was gonna work on are part of the amendment that I kicked out, and the issues with those bills. And we will slow this thing down. And I did tell the speaker, don't schedule my stuff tomorrow. If hemp doesn't pass because of it, that's fine. Because I put too much time to be down here and built my integrity down here to say that I'm pandering to people who had a bad day yesterday. Because when, like I said yesterday, when you're a W, you take the tough votes. When you go reverse order, you are the first one up. When you go regular order, you sit there and get blamed. Although there are other Democrats who take votes, but they're hidden in that big list. I'm the one who's called out. And I've stayed by my side and stood here every time and took those blows. Ask Senator Chambers how many times he came over and said he's disappointed in me because I was the 25th or the 33rd vote. So, Mr. Speaker, if the schedule's messed up, it is what it is today. We will talk about whatever I feel like talking about. We will file motions, and we will go to distance, and you'll get 33, and you'll move this bill forward. But so will the next bill. Because I don't operate that way. I did it for 2 days this session because I was lied to. But now my integrity is being questioned. So all bets are off.
Thanks, Senator Wayne. Senator Chambers.
Mr. President, members of the legislature, nothing could make a quote father happier than to see his quote son rise up in indignation, stake out his territory, and make it clear that there are some lines which, if crossed, will be crossed at the crosser's peril. Now, I'm not going to instigate anything. I'm not going to agitate anything. But if I were a pyromaniac and a fire was to be on the scene, I couldn't help going there and watching it and admiring it, even though I didn't set it. See, if I set the fire and it was somebody else's property, I'd be an arsonist. If I merely love to watch flames, then I'm a pyromaniac. I have that mania. This legislature does things, and I think people who comprise the legislature will do things without being aware of the seriousness of what it is they're doing, because most of these people lived a privileged existence, and words can be dropped willy-nilly, and they're just words. But when you come from a different experience, then words take on a much deeper meaning, because the people who utter those words are in a position to do harm to you. And sometimes words convey a warning or convey a threat. And if you decide to resist, then it's not that person you deal with. They can call in the local constabulary, otherwise known as the police. For example, if you and your child are in a communal swimming pool in an apartment complex where you live, they can call the police and they will come to you. If you have a little daughter who's on a corner where there is nothing that prohibits her being there, and she's selling bottled water to get the money to go on an excursion or outing, a white woman can call the police and they will come and accost that little girl. If you're grown men, such as myself and Senator, I don't know if his name should be mentioned here, because I don't want him to cast that gaze on me, but I'll go ahead and say it. If Senator Wayne and I were at Carter Lake and we were going to have a barbecue and some white woman was suspicious, she'd call the police and here they come. What are you doing here? What are all those white people doing? Then there might be a good-natured white person or a black person passing for white who'll come and say, wait a minute. When I saw this woman looking at them, I thought she was going to do this. So now that she did what I thought she did and called the police, I'm going to tell you they were not doing anything that not everybody else is doing, and you didn't go to anybody else all doing the same thing, but they have the right complexion. Now, I don't go into these coffee shops where you pay $15 for a cup of coffee that they froth up. Starbucks or Warbuck or something like that. If you, and when I say you, Senator Wayne again and myself are sitting at a table waiting for another of our number to come, the manager can call the police and we will be accosted and taken out of there by the police. So when white people get upset, they don't have to handle us.
1 minute.
If I did something you all don't like, and I'm saying it advisedly, I think these troopers have more sense than to respond to idiocy. But in other situations, y'all could call the police and they'd come in here and grab me. And you know the only thing that would be said, somebody's in there making trouble. And the cops would come storming in here and all they do is look around and they see a black man standing up. He's got to be the troublemaker, and they'd throw me down and maybe I was the one who's trying to stop the trouble. Those things happen. White people need to beware. And if you're not ware or wary, then consequences will flow. And black men don't have to swallow spit, take low, and shuffle feet, and throw sand, and come shuffling toward you and say, boss, I'm trying to be cool. I just graduated from the cool school. Won't look you in the eye. Well, it's a different day that has dawned. And whatever Senator Wayne undertakes to do, he is my young brother. I'm going to assist him.
That's time, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Chambers. Before proceeding, Senator Hilkman announced some special guests today. We have with us a member of the Iowa House of Representatives, Miss Mary Ann Hennesaw, and her husband, Charlie Johnson, Welcome under the south balcony. Please rise so we can welcome you to the Nebraska Legislature. Continuing debate, Senator Friesen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just couldn't resist, Senator Wayne. I rise to the bait. I will not get into the middle of between the Judiciary Committee, but I do want to talk a little bit about gambling. And I don't care where you're sending the money. That you can call it pandering if you want, not to me. It doesn't. I'm good with that. Gambling. You know, in the past, I've been asked that question numerous times, and I've probably been on both sides of the argument. I could probably go to both sides today. When you look at, I have friends of mine that they go to the boats in Council Bluffs 2-3 times a month. And every time they go, they take a picture of one of those plaques on the wall that shows how much money is sent to the county, the city, the state. And they rub it in that they're spending Nebraska money in Iowa, and we're not collecting that tax. And the parking lot is full of Nebraska-plated cars. So I guess you can say we deal with the problem, but we don't get the revenue because they go there to gamble anyhow. Now you can put gambling machines in Grand Island. I won't gamble any more than I do today. I gamble enough farming. And the stakes are higher and the odds are less. But in the end, people choice. You know, I choose. Sometimes, you know, people go gambling and they'll say they'll take so and so much money. It's like dinner and a movie, and they go out and they spend money, they gamble, they go home. I've been at places in Las Vegas and South Dakota where I've seen people go back to the ATM machine and just keep taking money out, thinking they're going to make it rich, and they don't. So it takes all kinds of people, and it affects everybody differently, and yes, we're going to deal with some problems if we have it. But now we've just got a steady stream of plane loads of people going to Vegas and driving to Council Bluffs, and they gamble there, and we still deal with the damage back home. So I think it's something that in the end we need to address. It's probably going to be on one of the ballots, maybe this next election, I don't know, along with the marijuana bill. But maybe it'll drag people to the polls, and we'll maybe get maybe over 50% turnout once or something. I don't know. Maybe people take an interest. But it is something I think we need to look at. And where the revenue goes, I'm ambivalent to that. We'll deal with property taxes eventually. I've been here long enough to know we're maybe not going to solve it in my 8 years here, but we're going to work on it, and we'll keep working at it. But again, this is one of those issues that's come up here forever. As long as I've followed the legislature, we've talked about it. It's come up numerous times in the petition drives. It has never passed. So I look forward to the debate the rest of the day, and with that, I'd yield the rest of my time to Senator Wayne.
Thanks, Senator Friesen. Senator Wayne, 1 minute 40.
Thank you, colleagues. And I'm not going to get into the judiciary issue because there's bills that I can talk about that on. But I would invite anybody to get up and let's have a conversation about property taxes. Let's have a conversation about income tax. We can have a productive conversation, or we can have me just talking. Either way, I'm an attorney. I stand up all the time and talk. I can go for however long I can go for, and it's pretty much all day. So we can have a constructive conversation, or we can't. Doesn't bother me, but at the end of the day, there's just certain things, as a black man, I'm not going to let happen. So take it how you will. So let's look at our exemptions. And that's where I'm going to be at for a while. Then we'll talk about why this is important and how it all ties back. But before I go there, let's talk about, does anybody have an idea of how many number of games we actually have? No. We heard about the debate from Senator Albright, there's a fear of too many games getting here. We limit it to a certain square footage, but just factor that into the number of buildings and gas stations we see along I-80 in every city that we are in. Now times that number by, let's say they make $10,000 a year. You factor the number of gas stations and VFWs and places we have, there is a significant impact. Is it what most people probably want for some type of relief? Absolutely not. But at the end of the day, we are being consistent, at least in my eyes, around the notion of gaming, skill game, and everything else. Now, I only have about 30 seconds left, but let me tell you why I'm going to sit here and take this for the rest of the time in a minute.
Thanks, Senator Wayne. Actually, next in the queue, Senator Wayne may continue 5 minutes.
Thank you. So many people don't know how we got to the hemp bill, but Senator Brandt knows that at one point I spent the entire weekend rewriting the entire bill. Not through bill drafting, I actually crafted it. I spent my recess working at a construction site, hopping on an hour-long phone call with Senator Hilgers. And I know everybody makes sacrifices. But at the end of the day, we sacrifice a lot. And I've worked pretty hard to get these bills to final reading. So much to come here and have them yesterday and then come back and move them off of select to fix somebody who came literally in at the last hour. And I wrote a whole new section. But I am willing to give all of that up. I'm willing to give up this entire session for everything that I work for, including 86, which is my priority bill that is sitting on final reading for tomorrow. Because of a public statement that I'm pandering to somebody. Because I am just making up stuff to have an attack on my integrity. Well, where I come from, that's pretty much all you got. So we will spend time. We will spend time on every bill because I already know that if I go too far, my amendments might not be up tomorrow, and my bills won't. And for Senator Brandt, I apologize for you wasting your priority. But that's who I am, and those who know me, who are watching, know that I will go the entire time and keep us here till midnight. I have another motion already filed to strike the enactment clause, and I will keep filing motions, and you can keep calling the question, and we can get to a filibuster, and you can get your 33. But I've sat here and watched for 2 years us talk about the most important issues, and it gets to the floor, and we can't come to an agreement. This morning, when I got here, before I walked into exec, I stopped Senator Friesen and had another conversation about property taxes. And what I have here is the tax expenditure report. And I said, Friesen, get me through final reading. I'm going to read through everything, and I'm going to see what we can come up with so we can have a productive conversation, even if it's just the last day. So I guess I'm going to have that on the mic. And I know some people might say I'm burning political capital and I might lose a lot, but I am what I am, as Senator Chambers always say. We have a tax issue. In my community and in communities across this state, we have a TIOSA problem that nobody paid attention, in my opinion, to what was handed out by Senator Linehan. We are treating kids unfairly from a state's perspective. So we got 2 days, and then we got the third day, and whoever's bill's lined up, I'm not going to apologize, because yesterday I took a vote and people got mad, and the day before that I took a vote and people got mad. But the people who know I took that vote for on both days know that I kept my word, and I have integrity. And that's what it's about today. This wasn't supposed to turn into that, and in fact, I was planning on pulling it like I did every single bill except for one amendment on this bill. I never took it the distance. I gave him his vote, but we crossed a line that can't quite honestly be undone.
1 minute.
So in the future, if I come back here and I lose my chairmanship and we do everything, I'm okay with that, because I get to look in the mirror and say I fought for my integrity. So, Senator Friesen, I only got a minute left. Senator Friesen, will you yield to a question?
Senator Friesen, yield, please.
Yes, I would.
I'm going to let you start off. We'll get cut off, and then we'll keep going. But I want to hear more about your property tax relief and the ideas that you have around that. If you don't want to engage in that, I can go to Senator Erdman. But I think we need to have a productive conversation versus me just talking. And if nobody wants to engage, I'll continue to talk.
I guess I'd be happy to. I mean, we've engaged in this debate for 5 years now, and we had an issue, and it is with TIOSA. It's not maybe that TIOSA is broken, but TIOSA wasn't designed to handle a spike in land values, no more than it would be capable of handling a spike in housing prices.
That's time, Senators.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Erdman.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Interesting conversation. We're going to change gears a little bit. I have a good friend back home that's going to be inducted into the Professional Cowboy Hall of Fame in August, and I have a resolution. I'd like to read that. Whereas Dean Gorsuch will be inducted into the Professional Rodeo Cowboy Association Hall of Fame in August 2019, and whereas Dean Gorsuch was born August 31st, 1979 in Mullen and grew up on a farm near Alliance, and whereas Dean Gorsuch participated in rodeo at Alliance High School and where he graduated in 1998, whereas Dean Gorsuch participated in rodeo at and graduated from Eastern Wyoming College, whereas Dean Gorsuch started full-time in the Professional Rodeo Cowboy Association in 2002, and whereas Dean Gorsuch won the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association World Championship Steer Wrestling in 2006 and 2010, and whereas Dean Gorsuch won the Rams National Circuit Finals title in 2006 and 2008, and whereas Dean Gorsuch competed in the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo 8 times, and whereas the American Rodeo, which pays out the highest purse in rodeo competition, and Dean Gorsuch qualified for the first American Rodeo in 2014, finishing second in steer wrestling in Dallas, Texas. And whereas Dean Gorsuch resides in Gearing and teaches welding at Eastern Wyoming College, and whereas Dean Gorsuch is an exemplary husband, father, friend, college instructor, and man of faith. Now therefore be it resolved by the members of the 106th Legislature of Nebraska First Session that the legislature recognizes the outstanding achievements of Dean Gorsuch in the competition and sport of rodeo, and that a copy of this resolution shall be sent to Dean Gorsuch. Congratulations, Dean. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Erdman. Senator Bosselman.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll take this time, thank Senator Wayne a little bit for bringing this topic up and discuss this on adding the taxes onto these machines. I think is very interesting with this is that we don't like the machines, we don't want the machines, and people are going to spend money in the machines because if we pass this bill, they're going to have the machines, but we don't want to tax the machines that can bring money in to help us in whatever area is decided upon with those funds to go. In 183, it was fought, well, we don't want to tax pet-related services, we don't want to tax storage, we don't want to tax moving, we don't want to tax hair care and beauty, nails, spa, tattoo, maintenance, single-family housing, maintenance, interior design, limousine, taxi, rideshare, lawn care, garden, landscape, parking, swimming pool, dating, telefloral, wedding planning, weight loss, personal training, clothing alteration, motor vehicle repair, candy, soft drinks, bottled water, ice, fine art, museum purchases, dry cleaning, and on and on. We don't want to tax any of them. And we don't want to tax these machines that nobody likes, that people are going to spend money on, put money in wherever it is. It potentially could be a large amount of revenue, tax revenue coming in, and we don't want to do that either. We want to raise our budget. We want to put more money in, but we want to reduce spending. We want to tell our local taxing authorities, you got to cut, but we can't cut at the state level. We want to give millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in tax incentives out, but we don't want to tax these machines. Really? That doesn't make any sense to me. This is something that a person on their own would go and spend their money on. It's not taken away from food or any of those other items. If they're going to be in the state, if they're going to be legal, If this is what we're going to pass and allow these people to do this, and it's not gambling, why not tax it? Now, I know there's going to be certain people in the body say, oh, you can't do that, you can't tax something. Well, folks, what are we going to do? What happened yesterday was, as far as I'm concerned, was horrible. We're stuck in this circle of despair, if you will, and we can't tax anybody. We can't take exemptions. That's taxes owed, but we've exempted them. The state's decided to exempt them. We can't bring that money in. We got to raise our budgets. We got to spend more money, but then we got to tell them they got to cut. And oh, by the way, our schools, you got to reduce. But we're not going to give you any money. What in the world are we doing? I don't like taxing any more than anybody else, but when there's an opportunity, a creative solution that brings in something that we haven't thought about before, that hasn't had this before, I think it's worth a worthy debate. I think it's worth discussing. I think it's a worthy idea. What are you going to do? I've got an article in the paper that I wrote. Y'all might want to read it. Some of your names are in it, because I'm pissed. All right? I'm not happy. We came here. When I came here 2 years ago, every one of the freshman senators sat down and said, our number one thing is property tax relief. And I bet a lot of you did too. But none of you want to do anything about it. Because we can't raise taxes. We can't do exemptions. We got to raise our budget. What are we going to do? We got to find some solutions somewhere. You go out in the lobby, and the state chamber's out there saying, no, 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 no. Really? You go down the hall, the governor says, no, 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 no. Really? Okay, what's the answer, folks? We can't keep doing the same thing. We've got to work together to find a solution. Here's my solution. You lock those doors. You lock those doors. Everybody gets out of here but those who really want to make a difference and want to do something with taxes and figure out how to fix TIOSA, how to do something for the state, and let's get it done. Senator Wayne said that before.
That's time, Senator.
Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Bossman. Senator Moser.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Glad to see you're all in such a fine mood this afternoon. The taxation of, or the document stamp that these machines require, I checked with Senator Breezy and his staff are looking into the numbers, but if I recall correctly, there were around 4,500 of these machines. And the fee on each machine is about $250. So if you multiply that out, it comes out to about $1,125,000 or thereabouts. So this isn't exactly insignificant. I mean, that's the total gambling revenue, tax revenue that we take in as a state is around $52 million. So this is going to add another million, even if you don't call these gambling machines. It's closely related if you're not going to call them gambling machines. So it's nothing to sneeze at. And when we talked about fantasy sports, I voted to bring fantasy sports out of the committee because I think that the demographics of those who play fantasy sports are different than the ones that play bingo or the people who go to the casinos. I think they're younger and more affluent citizens, and they're going to play fantasy sports anyway, and as long as they're going to play fantasy sports, why don't we tax them? That was my argument there. That would have brought in, I think, way more money than 6% of these gray machines. That being said, if we're going to bring up something on final reading to tax the revenue of these machines, which we never really considered or suggested that I recall in committee, final reading's a little bit late to bring that up. So It's not that I don't want to do something about property tax. Some of the best and most experienced senators who had backgrounds in it couldn't come up with a plan that they could, first of all, they couldn't come up with a plan that they could get passed. Any plan. If it was 1%, 2% improvement, whatever. And then the plans that did come forward were 1%, 2%, which when property taxes are off by 50% probably, are not bold enough to really make a difference. So I guess I object to the amendment on for a varied number of reasons. It's a little late in the process to bring it up. I think it should have been considered earlier. I don't think Nebraska does that badly in taxing gambling, because we're taking in 52 million. In Iowa, they take in 350 million, but they have 1.65 times the population. So if you multiply our 52 million times 1.65, then that's about 85 million that we would take in had we as much population as Iowa has. So gambling is supporting some expenses for the state. I don't know that 6% of the total revenues of these gray machines would make that much difference in property tax. I think we need to sit down and come up with a bold plan that really makes a difference, rather than trying to be like a bunch of little piranha and nibbling around the edge of the whale and not getting the problem solved. Thank you.
Thanks on the motion. Senator Lathrop.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. We're on final reading. This thing has been run the distance at each stage, and before it ever had an opportunity to get to this floor, it was the subject and the object of a great deal of work. It's been the object of a great deal of work since it's been to the floor, and I think I've had to defend this bill for the duration each time it's come up, and I am invested in it, as you might expect, and as you probably would be too. In my previous remarks, I suggested that Senator Wayne was pandering to the people who had a bad day yesterday, and Senator Wayne has taken that as a questioning his integrity. Senator Wayne, I'm not questioning your integrity at all, and to the extent you think I have been, I apologize for that. I want to see this bill pass. I have defended it from poison pills, I've defended it from amendments, and I've done it on general and select and now final reading. I'd like to see this bill move. I hope you'll oppose AM 1973. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lathrop. Senator Linehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a great deal of respect for Senator Lathrop and Senator Wayne, so I don't want to. I'm hoping they can work that out. I have some other things going on today, so I really don't want to be here till midnight. But with that said, I will ask if Senator Wayne is willing. I'd like to ask him some questions because I don't know that much about the subject we're
Senator Wayne, would you yield, please?
speaking about.
Yes.
So the subject here is, okay, I get machines. I don't gamble even when I go to Las Vegas, so I don't understand this. What do these machines do?
So this bill will separate out between actual gambling devices and games that are games of skill. So like bank shot and other games that you can play and get some type of reward for, but not cash value, but it's a game of skill. And what this bill says is you get to pay $250, or the manufacturer does, to the Department of Revenue. They determine whether it's a gaming device or not. They determine it's not, then you can place them in your building or whatever. And Senator Albright amended it to say that it can only be so many per machines out of fear that this is going to grow tremendously, correctly so. So these games are being played and they can generate anywhere from $100 to $20,000 or more. We don't know because we don't have an idea of what it is, so we're trying to regulate that. And all my bills say, or all my amendment says is we should tax it. We do it everything else. You get a licensing, you get alcohol, you get a license to carry to sell alcohol, but we still tax the alcohol and sales. We do it everywhere else in every other industry When there is a license to have it, you still tax it after that. I'm being consistent, and I'm being consistent with the state law of Nebraska.
So we don't tax any of the revenue that these,
No.
who gets the revenue?
Well, oftentimes VFWs and other charitable organizations, but we're finding more and more they're getting in actually gas stations and other places where they can go in and put a couple dollars in or whatever and play them. But there's no tax on it.
And these machines are not necessarily owned by nonprofits then?
Not necessarily owned by nonprofits, correct.
So a for-profit business could have these machines and be making up to $20,000 a machine, and we're not taxing them?
Potentially, yes.
Okay, well, I would be very interested in looking at that in the revenue community. I yield the rest of my time to Senator Wayne.
Thanks, Senator Linehan. Senator Wayne, 2 minutes 20.
Thank you. There's kind of some conversation about why we haven't looked into this tax. The reason we haven't looked into this tax is because we're not currently regulating it. So there's no way for us to know. And if you recall Senator Lathrop's introduction to this, it's State Patrol are trying to figure out whether it's gaming or whether it's gambling or whether it's a game of skill. And they're not equipped to go in and really do that. It's up to the local county attorney or the AG to do that. And they're still struggling with it because they're everywhere. If you were to go down I-80 and stop at multiple gas stations, they're everywhere. And that was what prompted Senator Albright's fear of them being everywhere. It's saying we got to limit this somehow. And that's all I'm saying is that if they're going to be everywhere, if they're going to be anywhere, there should be a tax on it. And I agree that at this point we shouldn't raise taxes to put it in general revenue funds. We should probably raise taxes to lower property tax. I'd rather fund TIOSA, but how I'd rather do it is do property tax through TIOSA, but I can't get that done in final reading. But I thought this was a simple amendment to say, if you're going to have the machines, let's tax them. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Wayne. Senator Halloran.
Thank you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor. Since I was asked a little bit ago to video Senator Erdman when he gave his legislative resolution, so to find a good location to do that, I asked Senator Chambers, since he never uses his chair, if I could sit in his chair. I don't think anybody's ever been privileged to do that, so thank you. Since he yielded me his chair, I'm going to yield him the balance of my time.
Thanks, Senator Halloran. Senator Chambers, 4 minutes 30.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Halloran. And before you spoke, a message was given to me that there were 2 reasons that whoever had given the message knew that it was not me in my chair. I said, what's the first one? They said, well, you don't sit down. I said, well, what's the second one? They said, well, you don't wear a suit. That's how they knew it wasn't me. But at any rate, this is an opportunity to re-emphasize something that people have heard even if they haven't said it. Actions bear consequences. Yesterday, I was in my office watching all of that scrambling and maneuvering on LB 720. When it was to be voted on by the exec board to be one of the speaker's extra special bills, whatever it's called, at first I had signed without realizing exactly what all was entailed with that specific bill. But what really got to me was that the introducer of the bill can control the amendments that are offered and the order in which they would be taken. And that's giving too much of a thumb on the scale, so to speak. It's placing the entire palm on the scale, then leaning on it with all your weight. Because of that, and I'm not going to say that's the only reason, but an amendment that I was going to offer never was heard, and it never will be heard, because nobody with a bill like that would even want to touch an amendment like this. That bill says something like, whoever's going to get this giveaway from the state, these businesses, they have to agree not to violate any law or rule against discrimination that's federal or state. But since not all groups are protected by federal law and state law from discrimination, then I wanted to specify, and this is the amendment that I had crafted, there would be no discrimination on the basis of race. And by the way, all I did was listed out all of the protected classes, so-called, and then included the ones that are not protected by state or federal law. And since these companies are getting a handout, they should be willing to do the right thing, and especially since we had discussions on the LGBTQ bill that businesses are leading the way, so they wouldn't object, but I think members of the legislature would. There would be no discrimination on the basis of race, color, creed, religion, ancestry, sex, marital status, national origin, familial status as defined in Section 20-311, handicap as defined in Section 20-313, age, disability, sexual orientation, or gender identity. Nobody carrying a bill like LB 270 wanted that. By giving the one who sponsored the bill the power to determine which amendments will be taken in the order, I'm not going to say this is what the current sponsor of that bill would do. That person could craft a number of amendments himself and put them on, and they'd all precede this amendment that I have, even if they were lost. Get the bill in the condition that's wanted, then put all these other amendments up himself or have somebody do it, and they would never get to this amendment of mine. And that's how they tip the scale, it's how they stack the deck, and it's how they get what they want through the corruption of the legislative process. And unlike my young friend Senator Breezy, I don't trust these people. Too much is at stake when big shot lobbyists are backing a piece of legislation or opposing it. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Halloran.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. Senator Wayne, you recognize to close your motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I do accept Senator Lathrop's acknowledgement of what happened. And I do recognize I wasn't planning on going to a vote for this bill, and then when I introduced it, I was like, let's just see what's out there. Then it kind of turned a little different. But here's where I'm at with this bill. We don't know how many out there are regulated. And I do agree with Senator Linehan, we should have a hearing in revenue about it. So next year I will bring a bill that will deal with this and all gaming devices, and we will have a hearing. We will let those come in and tell us how much they get, how much they maybe lose, which I don't know how they would lose, but I'm sure somebody's gonna come in and say they would lose money. That's always happened in revenue somehow. So I do need to say that 2 years, 3 years in this body, I have been treated different on my side of the aisle. And for that, I do apologize to Senator Lathrop for being the tipping point in which I had to respond. And many of you know what I'm talking about from my first vote, where I was 33, even 2 days ago. But there have been consistently in which a couple of us, and I'll say it that way, are being treated different in this body by particular sides. And I'm not gonna let it happen anymore. So if I come out a little aggressive on something, I'm telling you now, that is the history. That is the history where I take a vote and other people who are from the same party takes a vote and they get a pass, but for some reason, I'm expected to be different. It's fundamentally wrong. And I'm done with it. And when somebody intentionally, accidentally may come across to me as attacking my integrity, I'm done with it. We have to raise the standards in here. We have to raise the standards on both sides. With that, Mr. President, I do withdraw my motion and the following motion after that.
Thanks, Senator Wayne. The motion's withdrawn. Members, we're back on LB 538 on final reading. Everyone please be at your desks for final reading. Mr. Clerk, the first vote is dispense with the at-large reading. Those in favor of dispensing of the reading, vote aye. Those opposed, vote nay. Record, please.
33 ayes, 7 ayes to dispense with the at-large reading, Mr.
The at-large
President.
reading is dispensed with. Mr. Clerk, please read the title.
Ingress Legislative Bill 538, introduced by Lathrop 12, a bill for an act relating to gambling, amendment section 281107, 77 3001, 77 3006, 3007, 77 3008, 77 3010, 77 3011, reissued by statute Nebraska, section 77, 5601, revised statute Nebraska, as amended by section 2, legislative bill 237, 106 legislature, first session 2019. Change provision relating to possession of a gambling device, define and redefine terms under the Mechanical Amusement Device Tax Act, provide for approval of certain mechanical amusement devices, by and provide duties and powers for the Department of Revenue as prescribed, to restrict operation of a cash device as prescribed, provide for the use of certain fees for enforcement, to authorize the manufacture, sale, transport, placement, possession, or entry into transactions involving certain cash devices as prescribed, to provide fees, to harmonize provisions, to provide an operative date and repeal the original sections.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 538 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Arts, Blood Bowles, Bostelman, Brandt, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Clements, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Friesen, Geis, Gregor, Roney, Ben Hansen, Matt Hansen, Hilgers, Hilkeman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolowski, Colderman, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Moorfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, none. Not voting, Senators Erdman, Holloran, Wayne, Brewer, and LaGrone. Vote is 44 ayes, no nays, 3 present, not voting, 2 excused, not voting, Mr. President.
LB 538 passes. Proceeding now to LB 538A.
Senator Wayne, did you wish to withdraw that amendment as well?
Motion's withdrawn.
Ingress Bill 538A, entered by Lathrop 12, a bill for calculating appropriations, appropriate funds, and carrying out the provision of 538 106 legislative first session 2019, be enacted by the people of the state of Nebraska, section 1, and they hereby appropriate $126,900 from the Department of Revenue Enforcement for 2019-20, $113,700 from the Department of Revenue Enforcement for 2021 to the Department of Revenue for Program 165 to carry out the provision legislative 538 106 legislative first session 2019. Total spend per item salaries and pertains from funds appropriated not exceed $80,000 from fiscal year 2020, $85,500 for fiscal year 2021.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 538A pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Arts, Blood Bowles, Bosselman, Brandt, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Clements, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Friesen, Geis, Gregor, Roney, Ben Hansen, Matt Hansen, Hilgers, Hilkeman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolowski, Golderman, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Moorfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shears, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, none. Not voting, Senators Erdman, Halloran, Brewer, Chambers, and LaGrone. Vote is 44 ayes, no nays, 2 present not voting, 3 excused not voting. Mr. President.
LB 538A passes. Proceeding now to LB 600E. Mr. Clerk, the first vote is dispense with the at-large reading. Those favoring dispensing with the reading, vote aye. Those opposed, vote nay. Record, please.
Thirty-five ayes, 6 nays to dispense with the at-large reading, Mr.
The
President.
at-large reading is dispensed with. Mr. Clerk, please read the title.
Ingress Bill 600, Introduced Bill Walsh 15, a bill for an act relating to government to amend section 4313-1103, 434201, 4202, 4404, 4206, 4216, 2217, 4354504, 4508, 435451101, 4514, 6812, 717611, revised statute Nebraska section 43285, 4324203, 4207, 434218, 4315, 434701, 818244, revised statute Keem Sub 2018, change eligibility and hearing requirements for the Ridge of Independence program, change and eliminate legislative findings, declaration of intent read in the Nebraska Children's Commission, provide change and eliminate provision related to the administration, membership, and duties of the commission to eliminate a termination date, to state intent regarding funding, provide change and eliminate duties of the Department of Health and Human Services, the Office of Probation Administration relating to the commission, change and eliminate reporting requirements, to eliminate certain duties of the Bridge and Independence Advisory Committee, to eliminate obsolete provisions, change related to the Nebraska Healthcare Cash Fund, change related to the authority of the Bradley Republic Council for Institutions, to eliminate provision relating to legislative findings and intent regarding foster care, to harmonize provisions, provide an operative date, repeal the original sections, and to outright repeal section 434205, 4208, 4209, 4210, 4211, 4213, and 434214, reissue by statute in Nebraska, and to declare an emergency.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 600E pass with the emergency clause attached? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Blood, Bowles, Bostelman, Brandt, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Clemens, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Friesen, Gregor, Ben Hansen, Matt Hansen, Hilgers, Hilkeman, Howard, Hunt, Kolowski, Colderman, LaGrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Moorfeld, Merman, Pansy, Brestwick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, none. Not voting, Senators Albright, Arch, Erdman, Geist, Groney, Halloran, Hughes, Moser, Brewer, and Chambers. Vote is 39 ayes, no nays, 8 present, not voting, 2 excused, not voting, Mr. President.
LB 600E passes with the emergency clause attached. Proceeding now to LB 600AE.
Ingress Bill 600A, Enter Walls 15, a bill for calculating appropriations to appropriate funds carrying out the provision of Bill 600 to 106 legislative first session 2019, declare emergency, being acted by the people of the Nebraska Section 1, hereby appropriate $179,779 from the Nebraska Healthcare Cash Fund, fiscal year 1920, 81 from the Nebraska Healthcare Cash Fund, to Foster Care Review Office Program 353 to carry out the provision of legislative 106 legislative first session 2019. Total expenditure does not exceed $105,000 from the 170,942 from 2021. Section 2, since an emergency exists, this act shall take effect and pass and approved according to law.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 600AE pass with the emergency clause attached? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted care to? Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Blood, Bowles, Bosman, Brandt, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Friesen, Gregor, Ben Hansen, Matt Hansen, Helters, Hilkeman, Howard, Hunt, Colderman, LaGrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, McCollister, McDonald, Moorfeld, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shears, Lamas, Dinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, none. Not voting, Senators Albright, Arts, Clements, Erdman, Geis, Groney, Halloran, Hughes, Kolaski, Linehan, Lowe, Moser, Brewer, and Chambers. Vote is 35 ayes, no nays, 12 present, not voting, 2 excused, not voting. Mr. President.
LB 600 AE passes with the emergency clause attached. Proceeding on to LB 641.
Gresslow, Ho, 641. There's McDonald, 5, Orga, 7, Brewer, 23, Quick, 35, Friesen, 34. Bill for Nuclear Health and Human Services, Mexico 7176, and reissue by statute Nebraska. 52211, Information Referral Network provided for grants to create a fund. Change provision related to the transfer of the Nebraska Healthcare Cash Fund to state intent to repeal the regional section. Being acted by P Section 1 for the purpose of Section 211 of the Convenient Statewide Information Referral Network providing information regarding disaster and public pride throughout the state. There's a work grant name limit that has been happening either requiring the section to reach $300,000. For grant 211 Information Referral Network services to provide information on a county by county basis by the standards by the Alaska Information by the Commission. There's no way to links to the provider services within the organization to educate the public about the conservative and geographic basis within 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through telephone access and website access. There's hereby Creek 211 cash funds, which is used to burden this fund appropriately all money is submitted to the state treasurer for credit such funds to be invested in the state budget. The Nebraska Capital Expansion of the Nebraska Investment Fund, Section 27611, be amended to read. I submit the state hereby created submit that so this is measured by the amount of obligation of the reserve of the state or something that plated. Nebraska is the testimony in the reserve and purposes. Something is a 100% substance of 6 providers and determine health care in the fiscal year. State treasurer transfer them in the fiscal year 2019 through the use of some of the operations of the fiscal year 2011 services and the state investment fund. The state of Nebraska is in the hospital, is in the knowledge of communicates person on the basis of sexual orientation. Should have 5,000 for some the medical center be by college public or workforce training. Dental legislative cost of this up and there's up to 18,439, not covered by fees of veterans from Nebraska Healthcare Care in the fiscal year 2018, 1920. Dental legislative fund the grants will be awarded pursuant to section 1 of the Act, Nebraska Healthcare Cash Fund for fiscal year 2019, 20 and fiscal year 2021. Section 3, original Section 717611, reissue by statute Nebraska is repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure having been complied with, the question is, shall LB 641 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Arts, Blood, Bowles, Boston, Brandt, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Friesen, Geis, Gregor, Groney, Halloran, Ben Hansen, Matt Hansen, Helters, Hilkeman, Hughes, Hunt, Kolaski, Colderman, LaGrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, McCollister, McDonald, Moorfeld, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slamas, Dinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, none. Not voting, Senators Albright, Clements, Erdman, Howard, Lowe, Moser, Brewer, and Chambers. Vote is 41 ayes, no nays, 6 present, not voting, 2 excused, not voting. Mr. President.
LB 641 passes. Next bill is LB 641A.
Congress Bill 641A, Henry Bank Bond 5, Bill Frank Appropriation Gains to Grant Bill for 641 for Section 2019, Bill for Section 1. There's hereby appropriate state of the Nebraska Healthcare for 2020 and the Nebraska Cash Fund Public Health Commission Program 64 carrying out the level for 641 for Section 2019. No expenditure pertains for price of the statement appropriated in this section.
All provisions of law relative to procedure having been complied with, the question is, shall LB 641A pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Arts, Blood, Bowles, Bosselman, Brandt, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Friesen, Geis, Gregor, Halloran, Ben Hanson, Matt Hanson, Hilgers, Helkeman, Hughes, Hunt, Kolowski, Colderman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, McAllister, McDonald, Moorfeld, Merman, Pansy, Rex, Quick, Shear, Slama, Steiner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, none. Not voting, Senators Albright, Clements, Erdman, Groney, Howard, Lowe, Moser, Brewer, and Chambers. Vote is 40 yeas, no nays, 7 present. Not voting, 2 excused, not voting, Mr. President.
LB 641A passes. Additional final reading per the consent calendar, LB 62. Mr. Clerk.
Resolution 62, and by R9 binding verse 20, a bill for National Public Health and Welfare Amendment Section 7150-302, issue as stated private remains secret recommended and repeat the original section being section 1, 713, president need for credential at the state committee can reach recommended programs of certified prescription on about the section partner for that exam patient or partners along with the meditation same committee can reach recommended state pharmacy laws and regulations provided with the partners name of the president of the list of secretary partners may be prescribed to 10% 30-20. Such physicians shall assistant nurse prescribers may be prescribed to provide samples such as the delivery such partners such measures sufficient information. Section 2, original section 7150-302, revised statute Nebraska is repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure having been complied with, the question is, shall LB 62 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Arch, Blood, Bowles, Bosselman, Brandt, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Clemens, Crawford, DeBoer, Norton, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Gregor, Groney, Halloran, Ben Hanson, Matt Hanson, Hilgers, Hilkeman, and Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolowski, Colderman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Moorfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brex, Quick, Shear, Slama, Steiner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, none. Not voting, Senators Brewer and Chambers. Vote is 47 ayes, no nays. 2 excused, not voting, Mr. President.
LB 62 passes. Next bill is LB 123.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gross Legislative Bill 123, introduced by Senator Crawford, bill for an act relating to the Taxpayer Transparency Act to amend Section 84-60204 revised statute cumulative supplement 2018 to add an exempt for the database requirements for certain contracts, subscribe and repeal the original section, be enacted by the people of the state of Nebraska, Section 1, Section 84-602. Revised statute cumulative supplement is amended to read 6204 as number 1 statute, so the development maintain a single searchable website with information, state requests, expenditure, state funds, contracts, which accessible to public, no cost access to the property. This section website should be also served around the state of Nebraska and approved chief of the naming convention. The website should be a website of the state government. Our website should not include the treasurer's name and treasurer name. Should see the welcome message to the website established and maintained the state treasurer. Pursuant to the section, provide the information will document sources, receipt, and expenditure state funds, knowledge. B state treasurer and appropriate cause public website. One they identify principal location, amount of state receipts received or expended on all the state and chiefs to the state entity. 3, the budget program source. 4, the amount of purposes and receipt of all expenditures funds. 5, such other information is pretend that they enhancing transparency of state government functional operations to assist to the website should include data for the fiscal year 28-29 officially the app shall accept in the statement that becomes the subject to the section due to the change made by law 1651. Website shall include data for the state and the fiscal year 16-17 and each fiscal year after the date should be available to the website no later than 30 days after the end of the proceeding. 4, the website described in the section shall include a link to the website and the Department of Administration of the shall contain one database includes a copy of each shall set the base for expenditure of state funds including an amendment to such contract document incorporating the reference section of the person signed with the parties in agreement to the extended duration contract and agreement renewing the contract database shall be accessible to the public insurance by vendor for state entity dollar amount. All websites should provide the Department of Administrative Services lecture form copies of such inclusion in the database of contracts were active on January 1st, 24, except state minimum become subject to the section due to the process made by law 2016. It'll be 8/26 entity shall provide copies of contracts inclusion in the database beginning the contract or active after January 4th to the database and all copies of the expired contracts were previously included in the database subject 4.1a. This section shall not amend the provisions, policies, and procedures adopted under 4. Either section of the batch required under This subdivision shall be accessible to the public and searchable by vendor by the state, and the dollar amount be this dollar amount should be reduced or withheld from the contract before the sheriff should include in the database between the subdivision 4A of this subsection. When the social security number is to protect health information, the term is defined in the federal health portability and accountability Act 2014 through the name withheld from the public in section 84705 any information that confidential in state matter rule or regulation. See the calling contracts to be exempt from the requirements of subject 4A of this section. 2 contracts under the Department of Health Youth Services that are in the letters agreement and the purpose of providing specific switch the name of the family. 2 contracts with the University of Nebraska and the Nebraska for the purpose of providing specific service financial information the individual his or family. Contracts under the Department of Veterans Affairs under section 841V 4 for providing and specific veterans 5 section the state of Nebraska for the purpose of providing financial dollars of program. 5 contracts under despite under the section 7911 7911 to the other purposes providing specific services financial named individual. 6 contracts entered into the Commission of the Blind and Visually Impaired for the Commission of the Blind and Visually Impaired for the purpose of providing specific goods, services, financial assistance on behalf of the special named individual. 7 contracts of employment for employees in any state entity, the exemption part of the subject of the state entity, 10 service to the independent contractor, and 8 contracts entered in the Russian Investment Financial Authority for the purpose of specific financial assistance, including but not limited to grantors, specifically named the individual, his or her family. D, no entity that structures contract providing the retirement subject for this Department of Administrative Service shall adopt policies and procedures regarding the creation, maintenance, and disposal of records pursuant to section 84, 12.12.02 in the contract section in the database required in this section. The process for registering and to provide copies of the contracts required in this section 5. All entities shall provide the state treasurer the time in the form of the state treasurer and such that is accomplished to the 5, 6. And this the information which is considered confidential in the state federal law is not public record in section 84. 715, section 2, section 84602. 04 revised statutes cumulative supplement 2018 is repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure having been complied with, the question is, shall LB 123 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Arch, Blood, Bowles, Bosman, Brandt, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Clements, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Gregor, Holler, and Ben Hansen, Matt Hansen, Hildreth, Hokeman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Klowski, Colterman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Mosier, Merman, Pansing, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. Not voting Senators Groney, Brewer, and Chambers. 46 ayes, no nays, 1 present not voting, 2 excused not voting.
LB 123 passes. Next bill is LB 135.
Engrossed Legislative Bill 135, introduced by Senator Stinner, is a bill for an act relating to the Emergency Medical Services Practice Act, amend Section 38-1220, revised section of Nebraska change provisions relating to the exemption from license requirements and repeal the original section being enacted by the people of the state of Nebraska. Section 38-1220, revised section is amended to read 38-1220. The following are exempt from license requirements in Nebraska Medical Service Practice Act. One, the occasional vehicle or aircraft not identified as an ambulance or transporting patients or operating Nebraska Care Rescue restriction services vehicles or aircraft for the ambulance in case of major catastrophe. The emergency license ambulance based on the lookout is castrating the emergency not ordinance service required. 3, ambulance for any state which is operating in the location of the headquarters outside of the state in order to transport patients across the line, but not only ambulance to be used to pick up patients with the state for the transportation for the location with this exemption for the case of an emergency. 4, ambulance emergency fee owned and operated by the agency of the Nebraska state government. The purpose of such except the provisions of section 38-1232 provisions for registered nurses, licensed practitioner, registered nurses to hold the current Nebraska license or engaged to practice their respective professions.
All provisions of law relative to procedure having been complied with, the question is, shall LB 135 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Arch, Blood, Bowles, Bosman, Brandt, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Clements, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Gregor, Ben Hansen, Manhansen, Hildreth, Hokeman, Hughes, Hunt, Klowski, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Mosier, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. Not voting Senators Groney, Holloran, Howard, Colterman, Walls, Brewer, and Chambers. The vote is 42 ayes, no nays, 5 present not voting, 2 excused not voting.
LB 135 passes. LB 220.
Gross Legislative Bill 220, introduced by Senator Wishart, is a bill for an act relating to the Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired to amend Section 718607, 718611, to adopt and change federal law regarding vending facility programs, change provisions relating to priority status for blind persons operating vending facilities on state property, and repeal the original election bill by the state of Nebraska, section 171 to 87 of revised statute, and the procedure is amended to read 718607. The commission shall apply for the receipt of the administration of the state of any federal aid should be used for the purposes relating to blindness, include federal funds relating to vocational or to blind persons provided in the subsection 1 and 71 to 806. Receive the benefit of any state or any gift or donation, but any video and carrying out the purposes of the commission of the blind and visually impaired. 7. Promote self for the blind person provided in 718607 and 7187. Providing inner training for the alternatives to the blindness, including but not limited to Braille, long range conform to the independent travel and lifestyle maintenance. Establish equipment maintaining the shriveling with the qualified instruction of the comprehensive training of the eligible center shall provide conference and training as well as the orientation to counseling blind persons administrator and operator of any facility in the state in its capacity in the design legislative things pursuant to the section of Randolph Shepard in the case existing on January 1st, 2019, section for the benefit of the blind person. G. Contract to the purchase of the information for the blind person nature perform duties necessary for the purchase of the commission of blind and visually impaired and the commission for educational service related to blindness may cooperate so with the other public and private leading educational issue section 2, section 1, and 11 by section that is amended to read in 718186. The person providing blind person for the renewal of employment and guard blind person to stimulating blind person to greater effect and striving to make themselves self-supporting. The commission shall be administering and operate any facilities and programs from the Randolph Shepard Act that existed on January 1st, 2019, and the blind person license the commission of the pursuit of the United States. It's authorized in the appropriate effect shows in a federally loan building and a federally loan controlled property in the state building or any property owned controlled by the state and property owned controlled by the county, city, or municipality with the approval of the local governing body when in the judgment of the director of the commission such vending should be properly and such forth to be operated by with respect to the vending facilities and state-owned building which any property are controlled by the state and the property should begin to the blind except that this should not come to the Game and Parks Commission of the University of Nebraska. If a blind person is selected to operate or on the property in use, she shall do so on a rent-free basis. Some of the process compared to some of the process sold in some of the buildings or on similar property. Section 3, original section 718607 and 718611 revised statutes in Nebraska are repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure having been complied with, the question is shall LB 220 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Arch, Blood, Bowles, Bostman, Brandt, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Clements, Crawford, DeBoer, Doran, Erdman, Friesen, Geist, Gregor, Groney, Holleran, Ben Hansen, Matt Hansen, Hilders, Hilkeman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kalowski, Coltman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Mosier, Merman, Pansing, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Wishart, Williams, Wishart. Not voting Senators Linehan, Lowe, Brewer, Chambers. The vote is 45 ayes, no nays, 2 present not voting, 2 excused not voting.
LB 220 passes. Next bill is LB 244E.
Gross Legislative Bill 224, introduced by Senator Urban Clements, is a bill for an act relating to the Massage Therapy Practice Act, amendment section 83, 1701, 38, 1702, 38, 1707, 38, 17, revised section of the Nebraska massage therapy establishments to define or redefine for private license or change powers and duties, harmonious, repeal the restriction, declare an emergency, be enacted by the people of the state of Nebraska, section 1, section 38, 1701, revised statute, and raised amended to read 1731, sections 38, 1701, 13, 1714, 17, section 4. This statute should be known besides the Massage Therapy Practice Act, section 2, section 70, and 2 revised statutes amended to read section 38, 1702 for the purpose of Massage Therapy Act and elsewhere in the Uniform Credentialing Act, unless the conduct otherwise requires the definition of section 38, 1703, and 1770, and section 4 of this act apply. Section 17, 17707 revised statute, the Massage amended to these 38, 1707 massage therapist means any duly licensed place in which the massage therapist practices or her profession of massage therapy. Massage therapy established with mobile massage therapy established. Section 4 massage therapy means self-contained, self-reporting, and closed movement unit licensed under the Massage Therapy Practice Act on the mobile site and performance of massage therapy licensed person in the act. Section 5, section 1 shall operate, perform, for us to attempt to operate it. Massage therapy establishment unless such establishment is licensed by the Department of the Massage Therapy Practice Act, which shall not issue a new license of massage therapy until the requirements have been complied with. No person be engaged in the practice of massage therapy in the location premise other than massage therapy establishment except in the Act. Section 6, in order to be licensed in mobile massage department, the applicant should be the following parts. 1, the proposed establishment is self-contained, self-supporting closed unit. 2, the establishment has a non-automotive insurance license prostitution meets requirements responding to the mobile unit. 3, the establishment is clearly defining the property sign on the opposite of the establishment includes the established license plate number. The establishment complies with the establishment of the Massage Therapy Practice Act and the rules and regulations adopted and promulgated by the department under this act. 5, the answer to the proposal is the use spread of the provides safe access. 6, the proposed establishment has at least 44 square feet of floor space and more than 1 practitioner is employed to be in the establishment. At the same time, these stores can an additional space of 55 square feet. For an additional practitioner, and 7, the proposed includes a functional sink toilet. Facilities maintains an adequate supply of clean water and wastewater storage supplies. Exception 7, any person licensed under the operating research place when a complete application department along with the application of the detailed floor plan or blueprint of the proposed establishment sufficient to determine compliance with the section 6 of this act, section 8, section 4, license to operate a mobile massage should be reviewed by the department compliance with the requirements of the process and the rules and regulations adopted promptly to the department of the Defendant applications denied, therefore should be informed writing the 2 grounds of denying any such provision by the feature of this act. If an application approved, then the department shall issue the services operating with such the establishment, the department shall conduct and operate, which is within 6 months after the issuance of such certificate. An establishment to pass the inspection shall be issued the permanent license, and if it fails, the inspection shall be submitted within 15 days. Evidence of correction is taken to improve those aspects of the operation found redundant. If the evidence is not submitted within 15 days after the second inspection, the establishment does not receive statutory immediately local Section 9, in order to maintain the license and gives each mobile massage therapy shall operate in accordance with the following requirements. One, they shall at all times comply with the applicable massage practice and all rules and regulations appropriate and under the act. 2, the establishment shall know or visitor shall notify the department change of the ownership and office resident any establishment department closed. 3, the establishment shall permit any unlicensed massage therapy within the confines of employment. 4, the establishment shall display the name upon or name the entrance door distinguishes the mobile massage therapy at the department shall permit any duly licensed agent of the department to conduct an operating investigation anytime during the normal operating hours without prior notice. Shall assist to access all areas established and all personnel and all records by the inspector. The establishment shall display conspicuous place from the following records: A, the current license to operate in the establishment; B, the current license and all persons licensed and who are employed in the working establishment; C, the rating sheet for the most recent operation inspection. C, no time shall this application be more employed printed by the square footage of the massage therapy practice acts. B, no massage therapy may be performed in the establishment while the establishment moving the establishment safely and legally parked in legal parking space. All type of clients are present inside the establishment. Now, the establishment does not park in the conduct business 300 feet of another brick and mortar licensed massage therapy establishment. The department is not responsible for monitoring or enforcing this subdivision, but may discipline the license for reporting and verification. 9, the owner of the establishment shall update a pertinent business which corresponds to the department by receive records of the appointments, license number to be license kept for the establishment being the owner shall make a records available for inspection. 10, the establishment shall not only permit its members' clients to use consumer any distribute intoxicating beverages or controlled substance while as promised. 10, the procedure for renewing a mobile massage therapy establishment shall be in accordance with Section 3130 to accept the condition all the requirements. The establishment shall submit evidence of minimal property damage, bodily injury, and liability, and coverage insurance. The establishment of evidence of coverage meets the requirements of the Motor Vehicle Registration Act of the establishment. Section 11, section of the Mobile Massage Therapy Act. Massage has been revoked or expired, and any reason shall not be reinstated. The original application for licensure shall be submitted and approved at section 7. Each mobile massage therapy license shall be approved and be effective solely for the owner owners the most subject there, and it shall expire automatically upon change of ownership more than the unit. An application license should be submitted and approved with may be revoked and referred to section 13. The owner of each massage with third massage have full responsibility for ensuring the establishment is in operation compliance with the laws liable for any violations established section 3817, 15 revised statutes amended to read: the department shall may adopt and promulgate rules and regulations that may deem necessary to repress the practice of massage therapy which carried on the practice necessary to spread of infectious contagions other than the practice of massage mobile, which the department may, if it deems necessary, adopt and promulgate rules and regulations under the mobile massage therapy. 7, the department shall have enforced the Massage Therapy Practice Act and all necessary inspections connection. Section 15, original sections 381701, 381702, 381707, 381715, revised statutes of Nebraska are repealed. Section 16, since an emergency exists, this act takes effect when passed and approved according to law.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 244E passed with the emergency clause attached? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay.
Appreciate it.
Have you all voted? Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Arch, Blood, Bowles, Bosman, Brandt, Bruce, Kavanaugh, Clemens, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Grigor, Groney, Holler, Hanson, Hill, Zickelman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolowski, LaGrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. Voting nay, none not voting says Coulterman and Stinner, and Brewer and Chambers. 45 ayes, no nays, 2 present not voting, 2 excused not voting, Mr. President.
LB 244E passes with the emergency clause attached. Next bill is LB 248.
Congressional Bill 248 by Senators Howard and Blood, Bill for Neglecting Death, Hard of Hearing Persons, and James removes opposite provision. Policy state and Nebraska encourages the state vision to hand social economic state engaged in driver fails to make subtraction of energy cause such pedestrian blow up one of the favors of death. Any person commits an offensive violence to service animal when he or she intentionally resents, harvests, threatens, injures, or intentionally injures or harasses or threatens the animal, or he or she knows or reasonably with a serious animal. Person commits the offensive interference with the service animal when he or she intentionally respects or interferes with transacts
In the extreme rate, the right of the reason to believe a service animal, blind, or visually impaired person, deaf or hard of hearing person, or physically limited person. Upon hearing, person is unable to hear, hearing that has an age of 40 decibels or greater, and is physically limited, means person limited, vision is reads, person have age 20, 1 eye. Section 7 raises the Department of Health and Human Services, the Assistance Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing show top promulgate rules and regulations, define criteria established eligible persons. Section 8, original sections 28, 126, 128, 13101, 13104, 100901, 7147, 20, and 83, 101.14, reissued by repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall be 248 passed. Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
Voting aye, Sayers Albright, Archblood, Bowles, Bosselman, Brandt, Breesy, Kavanaugh, Clements, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Greger, Groney, Hollern, Hanson, Hilgers, Hickman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolaski, Coulterman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. 40 nay, none not voting, Sayers, Brewer, and Chambers. 47 ayes, no nays, 2 excused, not voting, Mr. President.
LB 248 passes. Next bill, LB 260.
Favorable Bill 260 by Senator Hanson, a bill for enactment of the Medical Assistance Act, amendments Secretary's rights that change provision relating to audit contractors adopting health premium assistance payment program. Notwithstanding the provisional audit recovery act agreements with the Department of Connecticut review claimants 2 years to date of payment and development of the Department's procedure, which in adjustment utilizes licensed care health prevention practice being to establish methodologies of established practice guidelines. Scheduling on-site visits with others knows not less than 10 minutes to make good faith establish mutual agreement on time and date with all data. Department should exclude the following from the scope of review of recovery claims process to account Medicaid managed care program and class of recurring dollars to compare prior authorization of the service performed. Contracts entered into this authority. The second may be a contingent fee based contract and agreement to shall approve the contingent fee based on recovery payments. And on an annual basis, the department shall require the recovery audit contractor to comply and issue department's internal websites and metrics related to performance such recovery audit contractors and medical records, number of payments, price, dollar amounts associated payments by the contractor and the duration of audit supervision. Contractors is just every form of consultation process utilized prior to the issuance final determination within 30 days. After receiving notification of the preliminary hearing of the contract may attempt to resolve the findings of such findings of pressure be made upon contract. Department shall by December 1 each year report to the legislative contract excluding the parties of such contracts be filed electronically. Recovery audit should be in contact with statement contracts, the audit claims, medical assistance payments, and overpayments and recoup payments. Section 2, original section 68974, reissue vice stats, Nebraska is repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall be 260 passed. Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
Voting aye, Sayers Albright, Archblood, Bowles, Bosselman, Brandt, Breesy, Kavanaugh, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Greger, Groney, Hollern, Hanson, Hilgers, Hickman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolaski, Coulterman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shears, Lama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. Voting nay, none not voting, Sayers Clements, Linehan, Brewer, and Chambers. 45 ayes, no nays, 2 present, not voting, 2 excused, not voting.
LB 260 passes. Proceeding to LB 281.
Article 281 by Senator McCollum, bill for the schools pride, positive child, neglect, all for 12 for prescribed. East Public School, Nebraska, may declare visible located public schools as regularly subject to signs of human rights, 27-711, procedures towards child abuse and neglect, including disciplining public discrimination related to the poster. State Department of Education, a contract with an appropriate entity to create the poster crime subject. Department shall ensure the schools have free and easy access to digital image of such poster.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 281 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
Voting aye, Sayers Albright, Archblood, Bowles, Bostelman, Brandt, Breesy, Kavanaugh, Clements, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Friesen, Geis, Greger, Groney, Hollern, Hanson, Hilgers, Hickman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolaski, Coulterman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. Voting nay, none not voting, Sayers Erdman, Lowe, Brewer, and Chambers. 45 ayes, no nays, 2 present not voting, 2 excused not voting, Mr. President.
LB 281 passes. Next bill is LB 308.
308 by Senator Lathrop, bill for civil procedure, change of version, voluntary appearances, waiver of defenses. Each defendant action must be within 180 days commencement of the action stage to join the 180-day period. Then the offender is not properly served with the action state or joined properly such voluntary appearance of parties equal in the service to defense select person or just the court if any of those any person responding for such responsive pleading and objection to the court is there and issue appropriate review of the parties serving the defense. Following the suggestion of bankruptcy is not an appearance does not waive the defense of lack of personal jurisdiction, insufficient process, or insufficient service process. Section 3, original Section 25-217 to 516.01, revised test Nebraska are repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 308 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Record, please.
Voting aye, Sirs Albright, Archblood, Bowles, Bosselman, Brandt, Breesy, Kavanaugh, Clemens, Crawford, DeVore, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Grieger, Groney, Holler, and Hanson, Hilders, Hickman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolaski, Colderman, LaGrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Mormon, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slamas, Dinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. Voting nay, none, not voting, Sirs Brewer and Chambers. 47 ayes, no nays, 2 excused, not voting.
LB 308 passes. Next bill is LB 315.
Gross on 315 by Senator Colder, member Logan, taxation amendment section 7202 in 2018. Any interest of property whether greater than prior subject August 21 shall be subject to tax prescribed in section 7204 2006. Main compilation of death of grantor intended to make possession of judgment after his or death by reason of death of person shall become beneficiary of the judgment. Such part as many claim to originally belong, such value and property protection are considered for such person when a property has been acquired with that bequest or joint to his interest or not otherwise given by one newspaper of the county in the absence of such legal newspaper time, legal newspaper such adjoining county in general circulation. If it appears the county court, the county attorney in which county is likely has executed a waiver notice upon his or her cause of the time and place of the hearing and the voluntary appearance of such proceeding on behalf of the county and judge member of the various party proceeding is agreed to pay the law for the county's determination of inheritance tax due on account of the property described in this petition. It is subject to providing notice of the department shall certify and provide the department with delivery manner. The department shall post acceptable manner of delivering notice on its website. Any notice fails to comply with such matters. The purpose of requires a notice of waiver application be provided to the department. Section 3, original Section 7202 and 2018.02, revised tax Nebraska is repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, LB 315 pass. Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
Voting aye, Sirs Albright, Archblood, Bowles, Bosselman, Brandt, Breesy, Kavanaugh, Clemens, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Grieger, Groney, Holler, and Hanson, Hilders, Hickman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolaski, Colderman, LaGrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Slamas, Dinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. Senator Scheer voting yes. Not voting, Senator Brewer and Chambers. 47 ayes, no nays, 2 excused, not voting, Mr. President.
LB 315 passes. Next bill is LB 374.
Personal Bill 374 by Senators Brewer and provided claim law amendment section 37202 and provide for rapid permits wildlife abatement. Sections 378, 11, 77, park access construction alternative shall be no beside as a game law purposes, subdivisions of requirements such as a commission necessary, provide protection management raptors, approving of only resident, proper permit of wildlife abatement only the resident state was paid the fees required to the subjects agreed to provide with federal law regarding raptors used for wildlife. Fees such which shall be authority to this person is going to be 18 years of older. It shall be unlawful for a person to take attempt proper receptacles others provided by law or by rule or regulation, and raptors shall be barred or changed to wildlife abatement. And propagation position pursuant to 37.497, the rules and regulations adopted propagating commission. Nothing in this section shall be restricted to any sale, purchase, offer, sale, barter, purchase, any raptor, raptor egg, raptor semen to the wild. Section 6, Section 37202, 479, 498, which I joined Section 37201 are repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 374 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Record, please.
49 ayes, Senators Albright, Arch, Blood, Bowles, Boston, Brandt, Breesy, Kavanaugh, Clements, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Grager, Groney, Holler, and Hanson, Hildress, Hickelman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolaski, Golderman, LeGrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Lenahan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. Voting no, none not voting, Senators Brewer and Chambers. 47 ayes, no nays, 2 excused, not voting.
LB 374 passes. Proceeding to LB 392.
Resolution Bill 392 by Senator Lathrop, Bill for Nebraska Evidence Rules Change Provision in Hard Section 1. Following definitions apply to the article statements or order statement of non-represented by the citizens, clamorous rather than made by declarant, testifying trial or hearing, offering evidence to prove the truth of the matter asserted. Statement is offered against parties is or statement of person authorized to make a statement coming to the statement by his or her agent of security of party during the course of further conspiracy. Section 2, Section 27801, reissued by statute of Nebraska, repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure having been complied with, the question is, shall LB 392 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Record, please.
49, Senators Albright, Arch, Blood, Bowles, Boston, Brandt, Breesy, Kavanaugh, Clements, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Grager, Groney, Holler, and Hanson, Hildress, Hickelman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolaski, Colderman, LeGrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. Voting nay, none not voting, Senators Brewer and Chambers. 47 ayes, no nays, 2 excused, not voting.
LB 392 passes. Proceeding to LB 414.
Gross 414 by Senator Brandt, Erdman, bill for Cleveland County Highway Superintendent, amend Secretary of various types of duties prescribed shall be due to the County Highway Superintendent, Angela Smith, the County Board of Proposed Construction, item file the claims showing the municipal established on the years to undertake the project claims that we purchase amounts because number of rolls and bridges out by the Department of the United States County Board in case of emergency. Section 20 is repealed. Section 3, the following sections outright repealed. Section 3915 to reissued by Stats, Nebraska.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 414 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
49, Senators Albright, Arch, Blood, Bowles, Bosman, Brandt, Breesy, Kavanaugh, Clements, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Grager, Groney, Holler, and Hanson, Hildress, Hickelman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolaski, Colderman, LeGrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. Voting nay, none not voting, Senators Brewer and Chambers. 47 ayes, no nays, 2 excused, not voting.
LB 414 passes. Next bill is LB 427.
427 by Senators Howard and DeBoer, bill for enacting children, amendment section 4327, and terminology related to legitimate children. Children born in the parties on its present marriage will be resolved as an old body before the shall be limited. This is the court. In every case, the legitimate alternative commencement suit shall be consumed as the occupation soon. Section 2, Register 42377, reissue by Stats, Nebraska is repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 427 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
49, Senators Albright, Blood, Bowles, Bosman, Brandt, Breesy, Kavanaugh, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Friesen, Geis, Grager, Groney, Hanson, Hildress, Hickelman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolaski, Colderman, LeGrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. Voting no, Senators Clements, Erdman, Merman. Not voting, Senators Arch, Holler, and Lowe, Moser, Brewer, and Chambers. 40 ayes, 3 nays, 4 present not voting, 2 excused not voting.
LB 427 passes. LB 447.
Resolution 407 by Senator McDonald, bill for the Nebraska State Historical Society exempts certain employees of the Nebraska State Personnel System. All age personnel state government covered by 113 and 113 service up to state person except all persons in office, governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, treasurer, treasurer, all the legislature, court, commissioner, industrial, college, and board. All personnel of the governor's policy should be including personnel in the office. Chief medical officer, 78130, administrative, home journey. Chief Executive Officer is operated by the Department of Correctional Service, all personnel employees, physicians, Department of Examiner, Department of Banking. agencies had discovered the number of additional member exempt from state personnel based on the following agency: less than 25, 5101 to do, 22, 503, 2000, 2008, 3000, 4011, 4000, and 5040. Purpose of having such undercover shall be allowed to age up to recruit, hire, and supervise critical confidential services and aid to health and human services legislature. 49 covered persons of the agency board. Nominating committee proposes society one from each of the candidates shall be appointed each year by the president of the board of trustees. With the approval of the board of trustees, such appointment shall be made at least 120 days prior to the day of the annual meeting of the members. Nominating committee shall write and divide from the nominee. No trustee shall be able to serve for more than 2 full years consecutive. 3 terms may be eligible to serve as superintendent. Members of the board of trustees shall serve without pay. The requirements shall receive no room and travel expenses incurred while they engage in business society. Section 3, original section 82, 101, Richard Habitat, Nebraska, and section 81, 1316, Rice Act, Cum-Sub 2018 are repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, should LB 447 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Archibald, Bowles, Bostman, Brandt, Breese, Kavanaugh, Clemens, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Gregor, Groney, Holler, Hanson, Hildreth, Hickman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolosky, LeGrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stenner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. Voting nay, none, not voting, says Colterman, Brewer, and Chambers. 46 ayes, no nays, 1 present, not voting, 2 excused, not voting.
LB 447 passes. LB 447A.
Resolution 447A, by Senator McDonald, bill to appropriate funds aid and carry bill 44700, Super by Bill 182,000 historic society fund FY 29 and historic society fund FY 2020, Nebraska Bill 648. Total expenditures permanent temporary status per diem sums of 441,265 for FY 1920 or 141,265 for FY 2121.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 447A pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Archibald, Bowles, Bosman, Brandt, Breese, Kavanaugh, Clemens, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Gregor, Groney, Holler, Hanson, Hildreth, Hickman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolosky, Colterman, LeGrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stenner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. Voting nay, none, not voting, says Brewer and Chambers. 47 ayes, no nays, 2 excused, not voting.
LB 447A passes. LB 454.
Probably 454 by Senators Clemens, Erdman, Bill Reyes, Nebraska State License Amendment, Section 185, original section. No brokers, salesperson, eligible use to any person not attaining the age of 18 years. No brokers is equivalent to subject not apply to one person who graduate school exempt from State Department of Education requirements. 97, 96, 1, these stories, state shall forward as have as usual complete the course of the state subject approved by the commission proposed another 6th class average study and thereof distance. The applicant for originals for service life shall be subject to fingerprinting for all his permanent history and bureaus. Each applicant shall furnish directly to the Nebraska State Poll or finger processing bureau is executing national criminal history record check. Of course, the study referred in subject to other section include officers by recommendation of Jane. Improved real estate courts for good cause shall have authority to suspend or withdraw approve such courses instructors. Section 2, original section 81A, 513, revised statute Nebraska 2018 is repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 454 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Archibald, Bowles, Bostman, Brandt, Breese, Kavanaugh, Clemens, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Gregor, Groney, Holler, and Hanson, Hildreth, Hickman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolosky, Colterman, LeGrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stenner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. Voting nay, none, not voting, says Brewer and Chambers. 47 ayes, no nays, 2 excused, not voting.
LB 454 passes. LB 476.
476 by Senator McAllister, vote on Metropolitan Utility Districts, amend section 14, 2138, and 2139. Metropolitan Utilities shall pay the city of Metro 72% of the annual gross revenue to sell water and gas. So, such as you accept the annual payment such as not give 500,000 such as law collect. Private sector shall be allocated district and several facilities open. In such areas, the village shall not collect now payments, fees, and such to be declared because the district of the salary to operate on such basis district shall determine. Sections 3, original, section 14, 21, 38, 21, 39 are repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 476 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
49, Senators Albright, Archblood, Bowles, Bosman, Brandt, Breesy, Kavanaugh, Clemens, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Friesen, Geis, Grigert, Groney, Hanson, Hildress, Hickman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolowski, Holterman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowell, McAllister, McDonald, Moorfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. Voting noes, or voting nay, none. Not voting, sirs, Erdman, Holler, Brewer, and Chambers. 45 ayes, no nays, 2 present, not voting, 2 excused, not voting.
LB 476 passes. Next bill is LB 505.
505 by Senator Brewer, Brockner, support order payments, amendment second 43, support joint payments, spread vegetation, collapse, obligatory support order payments, amendment includes this before the state department with electronic transfer, state disbursement units, electronic except in the period 2 years. Unit may issue notice of refrigerating paper powered by to accept the rules regulation at least 2 years after such issuance. These fees shall be returned to the state treasurer for credit. The state brewers when incurred by any money used shall be invested by state investment officer. Employees of more than 50 employees who have employed the child support shall be child support electronically. Section 2, original section 433342.03, which revised as Nebraska is repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 505 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please. Record, please.
Voting aye. Senators Albright, Archblood, Bowles, Bosman, Brandt, Breesy, Kavanaugh, Clemens, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Grigert, Groney, Holler, and Hanson, Hildress, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolowski, Colterman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowell, McAllister, McDonald, Moorfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. Voting nay, none. Not voting is Hickelman, Brewer, and Chambers. 46 ayes, no nays, 1 present not voting, 2 excused not voting, Mr. President.
LB 505 passes. Next bill is LB 525.
Council Bill 525, by the bill for Senator Dorn, Brooklyn County Government, Section 23-10701. Section 2, Section of the County Board such shall release when its period to public hearing date newspaper. County Board shall set a date which shall be in 2 months of date of public hearing. County Board shall cause to be printed and published once at least 10 days. Their address, real estate, the owner of real estate located in the county, which is located in the city, the primary class of public use for the purchase of lots. No plot or subdivision such real estate will be covered in the office subjects and whether improvement, future transfer of ownership will be accepted. The county shall have to do for purposes of section subdivision lot of grade. Subdivision plot shall be approved by the county planning commission. Recommendation county board regulars and members of the installed to sufficient board gathering and installation programs is posted. Any plot shall be filed with register of deeds and have because of deed and official contrary from the owner of such portion of land is set forth in public use. Section 3, original section 23-10701, 17403, reissued as Nebraska are repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 525 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
Voting aye. Senators Albright, Blood, Bowles, Bosman, Brandt, Breesy, Kavanaugh, Clemens, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Grigert, Groney, Hollard, Hanson, Hildress, Hickman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolowski, Colderman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowell, McAllister, McDonald, Moorfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, none. Not voting sirs, Arch, Shear, Brewer, and Chambers. 45 ayes, no nays, 2 present, not voting, 2 excused, not voting, Mr. President.
LB 525 passes. Pursuant to the rules, we'll skip LB 533 and proceed to LB 559.
And also Bill 559 by Senator Arch. It's a bill for enacting the state and town which is the state vet topic of Repeal Section 1, is the state Department of Medical Schools, College of State, one person for Dan be employed